He was up in the back of a bowl, just about 100 yards down of the saddle. And my plan was to work this ridge over, but he was bedded facing that saddle about 100 yards below it. And I'd been shooting with my other release. I have 2 identical releases, and just the pull and everything was a little harder on the one I've been shooting. As soon as I'm settling my pin and I'm resting my finger, I mean, that thing, it breaks on me. And I'm like, uh-oh. He drops down to that creek, and then I range it about 75 yards. So I'm trying to get an arrow knocked. Well, when he starts coming up that other side...
I think that hunting guide might be the worst job ever if you like to hunt. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. Today I'm joined by a special guest and good buddy, Landon Huey. How's it going, dude?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Thanks for having me at your home.
Yeah.
This is an epic trophy room. You got a nice Rocky Mountain elk up there, shoulder mounted. This is got a little bit of everything.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A lot of hunts. So we've been I'm chasing the slam. I don't know. Are you chasing the slam? Are you trying to do the big game slam, or are you just trying to do
sure.
You are?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I don't push it too hard on my son. I hope that he's got the bug, and, I'll spend every dollar I got to kind of guide him and, on that journey. And I'd, get what I can, but if he's into it, I'd obviously let him have first dibs on that. But, ultimately that's the goal, is to achieve his, I think you have to have some type of finish line to strive towards, and that's a good one to keep you busy for quite a while.
Yeah, probably more like a lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because for people that don't know, North American Super Slam, 29 big game animals in North America. It's something it's almost scary to speak it into existence because it's like, okay, this is going to be a lifelong pursuit. I didn't know if you were formally pursuing it, because there's a lot of people that have shot a lot more animals than I have, but they're like, oh, I don't care about the slam. I just like going hunting. So I didn't know if that was something you cared about at all.
No, absolutely. My biggest thing is I just hoping I can get some of the tags, I think you can. It just going to boil down to money, so I'm working hard and trying to make sure I got enough money to get that tag. But, if my son wants it, I'm probably only going to be able to afford one of them on some of those sheeps and goats, so.
Yeah, money talks.
All right.
Well, so we like to kind of start with this. I know you, but it's the first time you've been on the podcast. So for people that don't know you, kind of how would you describe yourself, and then a little bit about your hunting origins? Like, how'd you kind of get into all this bow hunting and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, my dad hunted in the 80s. I've never hunted with my dad. I just remember growing up when I was little, him in the backyard shooting his bow and stuff, and I knew that he had hunted, and I don't know where the bug came from, honestly. I was fortunate enough. I grew up in a small town that we had a little creek that run. It was just on the outskirts. We had a little creek, some woods back there with squirrels and rabbits and birds, and that was a huge part of my childhood growing up. And that's where I lived. I was just always out there, and just always was just really pulled to the outdoors, and just that connection with my dad, I guess. Everything he's ever given me, if around this room you look, I have some of his old predator calls and broadheads and different things. Everything he's ever given me, I've kept. And that was a big connection. And it, my dad just got out of it. It just wasn't for him. He did it when he was younger, and, I respect that. But, I just always had that bug, and started off with the BB guns out in the field. Dreamed of a Benjamin Sheridan, man. I started off like probably every kid with a little single cock, Red Ryder, and then got a little Pump Master. And then, I dreamed of the Benjamin Sheridan, man. That was the pellet gun back in the day, and, before the single breakovers, got popular. And then I remember a little Brave bow and arrow when they came out. I think it was like 28 pounds. I couldn't even pull the thing back, but I got one of those, and just shooting anything I could with it. We had big cactus patches out in the field that had all these mice and rats just infested. We'd shoot them with our bows, and then we had a family friend that had would kind of come around here and there, and he did some hunting and stuff, so he would take me out. And, I would just sit with my little Brave, and he'd bundle me up, and I'd just sit there, and try to shoot an armadillo or whatever. And so that was kind of how I got, out there a little bit more when I could. And I loved every chance I could get with them. I'd go out there with them and do it. And, it was tough because, I didn't have a deer lease or any family members or anything. I wanted to do it, you know, and I just remember always trying to tag along with friends and deer leases. We can't bring anybody or whatever. And like I said, I was fortunate that, you know, that family friend took me some, and so that was kind of where I killed my first deer, my first buck with him, but that was all rifle stuff. And I always loved archery. The PSE Nova came out, man.
Yeah,
and,
I had
and
one.
that was the bow, you know, and I had that, and I got one of those, and I tried a lot, you know, but I had no clue at what I was doing. I sat in, you know, wind was nothing. You know, we took the skunk scent and put on our boots and just sat in a tree and hoped that something walked by, right? And yeah, and it just developed the bug. And then unfortunately, you know, he would get me all riled up. He'd be like, man, we're going to go hunt this weekend, you know. So all week at school, I couldn't think about nothing but hunting, right? And it'd come Friday, and he would just, oh, no, we're not going, you know. And I'll just, you know, and that happened. It just kept happening more and more. And finally, I was just like, basically just lost trust. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not even going to. Anyways, got into high school and stuff, you know, and I never lost the love for hunting. I just was kind of starting to think about what I was going to do when I got out of high school, and I was kind of into motorcycles, dirt bike stuff, and so I moved out to Phoenix and went to Motorcycle Mechanics Institute and started working on bikes. And I was working out there. I met a kid, man, and him and his dad, they hunted out in Arizona, and I didn't know how good the elk hunting was and stuff in Arizona. I thought it was a desert. There was nothing out there. You know, he told me about black bear and all this, and at the time I was just in a different scene with motorcycles and stuff like that, and I just, instead of talking to him more and getting into it, you know. But anyways, there for a few years, I went off and kind of chased that dream. And then, and I still would kind of hunt with friends here and there every chance I got. And then, things changed with my career and got into a different space and switched jobs, and then just kind of had a reset and got back into hunting more and more, you know. And then really 2015 was kind of, started getting back into it more. Still was with the rifle stuff, trying to bow hunt, you know, but I was giving up too quick. You know, it was hard. You know, I was missing deer, and then finally I started hitting them and not finding them, and then I was just discouraged. So then I'd just pick up a gun, and then finally I just started getting more and more disciplined on my archery stuff, and was like, you know, I'm gonna get it done, and started practicing more elevated and just, you know, doing those things. And then 2020, I finally got my first. Well, let's see, I'd shot a couple of pigs. I shot a pig on public land, I think 2018 with a bow, and so I was super proud of that thing, you know, and somewhere around there, and then but anyways, yeah, I finally killed my first whitetail in 2020, and then I just kept practicing and just you know, emerging more and more in it. But I'm not an all-in archery guy, and you know, I don't say that I only bow hunt. You know, but majority I enjoy that challenge. You know, mainly if I rifle hunt, it's usually if I need some deer meat or something, I just go shoot a doe or something like that, and with the rifle, and go out with my wife and kids and stuff, and do stuff like that. But yeah, so that's just kind of how it all started for me, and it's just been that. But it all started when I was a little kid, man. You know, I've been drawn to the outdoors. I've got a stack of skulls and stuff, just little things I've collected when walking out in the woods, all my sheds that I've found, just everything. You know, it's just been a big part of my life, you know, and really just. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it is a big part of your life. I mean, it's consuming and it's fun. It's funny that you mentioned the bow hunting thing, because I've met a lot of people that, you know, Texas has a really long rifle season, and people love guns.
Right.
Just here, so moving down here, you're talking to people like, "Oh, you bow hunt," and coming from Oklahoma, their rifle season was 2 weeks a year.
Right.
So it's like, I like hunting more than hunting 2 weeks a year.
No,
and
yeah.
So we had a 3.5 month archery season, and so I was like, well, I just thought everybody bow hunted, because if you want to hunt more, you got to hunt with a bow.
Yeah.
And I come down here and they're like a 2.5 month rifle season. I'm like, oh, I see why. You know, there's a lot of bow hunters down here. But I see why it's just a little bit different. Like that's kind of how I got into the bow hunting thing, which is just by necessity. You have to. Right. You want to hunt. So, so you grew up in North Texas,
just south of Fort Worth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good spot. I've seen some. There's some good deer around there.
Yeah. You know. Yeah, for me, you know, I was just always trying to find somewhere to go hunt. I didn't know anything about public land. I didn't really know about public land. You know, I kind of knew about it, but like I just knew Texas, just not many opportunities. Most of Texas is draw stuff, and and just didn't really know, So my whole mindset was like, I thought you had to have a deer lease, own land, and you had to sit, a corn feeder, and that was it. You set a corn feeder, and if they don't come to it, they don't come. And that was just like my mindset, just because I didn't have anybody teaching me. Like I just kind of taught myself, with YouTube and things now. Fortunately, you're able to do a lot more research and get a lot more information now. And that's what I did, just a lot of trial and error stuff. And it's intimidating, man. You start getting out on this public stuff and, it feels good. You go sit, and when a feeder does go off and you get 20 deer come in,
That's cool.
it's like cool. And then you go hunt a different style, and you're hunting a trail or a transition or something like that, and you don't see a deer. You hunt all day. So it's discouraging, but it's rewarding, So yeah.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about the bow hunting thing. I was listening to Dudley kind of talk about it at TAC one day. He was like, there's 18-year-old kids shooting better than I did when I was 30 years old, because all the good information that's out there, all the people, like, I've always told people, if my dad or uncle didn't take me hunting, I would still be where I was when I was 10 years old trying to learn, like having people to take you. I don't know. It's so intimidating in this sport to get into it on your own, because like all the stuff that your dad or your uncle can tell you, or your mentor or whatever can tell you, don't do this, do that, do this, can shave years and years off. But when you don't have anybody doing that, you're learning every piece of it.
Or you can have people that are also giving you bad information, like I had. I had a lot of bad information given to me on like just the mindset of the way you needed to do it, right? Yeah. So I started, taking this information and processing it and kind of seeing what works, what don't work, and not 100% believing in anything, you know what I mean? Just trying to be a student ultimately and gather all this information, and I'm still doing it, and just trying, and each year it's like my skills get just a little better and a little better, because the mistakes that I make is really what it comes down to. Right?
Yeah.
It's just the mistakes I made. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, we're not going to do that again. Right.
Sure.
And it makes me think about things. So I'm a big on like analyzing, which we'll get into probably, the big buck from this year, right? The heartbreaker, and just analyzing those situations after the fact, and just kind of breaking them down and try to understand what happened and where could I have improved and what could I have done to become better, right?
Well, you stack enough of those together, and then you got a pretty decent situation at your hands, But it takes a lot of stacking, Right. I missed so many deer with my bow, wounded so many deer with my bow, and I still do sometimes, which is frustrating.
Oh, it's tough, man. Yeah, bow hunting is just, it's a different animal. I hear a lot of guys say, like, oh, I had him at, 20 yards. He was dead to rights. I was like, you still didn't make that shot, though.
Mm-hmm.
You still didn't make that shot. You know what I mean? Things can happen. He could have jumped. He could have squat. You don't know. I mean, a lot of things can happen still. He could have busted you drawing back. Like, until you got that animal in your hands, it's a different story,
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Yeah. So you did a lot of stuff this last season that was super cool to kind of watch from the outside looking in. And you had a really busy season, a lot of cool adventure stuff. And I think you started off with the Sitka Blacktail on Kodiak. Is that right?
Yeah.
So how did that hunt come to be? Because it was pretty last minute, right?
Right. Yeah. So a little bit of a rewind. When I changed careers, I saw an opportunity for me to, so I own an electrical company now, right? And I had to work and, get my hours and everything like that. But I saw an opportunity like, man, I can create and get a business, right? And if I play my cards right, I can buy me more time in the woods, right? I can have kind of more of control of my schedule. And that was my goal. So I started that, just to have that time on my schedule and to be able to do these hunts and opportunities. So I had a friend call me up, they had a cancellation on this hunt, and I don't know, it might have been about a month till, and he said, we had a guy who's not going to be able to make it. Is this something you want to do? And I said, yeah, I think I can make this work. So, got the details, everything like that, and started watching some YouTube videos and seeing what it entailed, and just, and this is you can use a rifle or a bow, and they said, they were going to bring a rifle just in case, and, my main focus was, I really wanted to use the bow and just be disciplined with that. If it would have got down to the last day, I might have
pull out that little insurance policy.
I might have pulled up the rifle just because the amount of money invested on the hunt and everything. So so just got invited, and Alaska. I was like, wow,
the last frontier.
Yeah, I was like, Alaska. I was like, man, that and then I'm like, Kodiak brown bear. And then I'm like, wow, okay, intimidating. But I was like, okay, so just got my stuff together, everything like that, and we head out, and we get up there, and we get dropped off, little float plane, and we basically.
So to go back just a little bit, so you fly up, right, and then you take a commercial flight, you stay, and then you're getting on a float plane to go to an island, right?
Well, we're on the island, right? We're on Kodiak Island, and we come into Kodiak on the commercial flight.
Okay.
And then the float plane, basically, you just let them know where you want to go. Right. I mean, everybody's asking them, where are all the deer at? You know what I mean? So obviously they're kind of vague, like, so we looked at the map and looked at terrain and seen kind of what, would make sense for us to, not the thickest stuff on there, huntable stuff. We knew that they're going to be high in the alpine feeding and stuff like that. So we needed some good spot where we could basically glass from and cover a lot of ground and not be just isolated to one little bowl or something. So we found a good spot, said, hey, what about this lake right here? I said, okay, and they flew us in, super cool. You're seeing, mountain goats and deer. And
really?
Oh yeah.
Mountain goats like on the way in?
Oh yeah. A lot of them. Yeah.
So you can draw a mountain goat tag out there?
I believe so. Yeah. Sick. I don't know the details on it, but yeah.
We'll be looking after this.
But yeah, so flew in, and we're like, man, this looks good, and you get off, you get on the land, and it is a sponge, the ground is just like a big sponge. It's not
like a green mossy sponge.
Yeah, it's not like Texas, that's just hard ground. It's just everywhere is just kind of soft and just super wet climate. And my biggest advice to anybody is, you want to physically be prepared, but you want to mentally be prepared for this hunt. You're going to be wet. It's just a wet climate that time of year and everything. And this was all kind of new to me. Like, I still didn't fully know. I just knew I had a good set of rain gear and some micro spikes. Like, luckily my buddies, somebody told them, hey, you need these micro spikes, to put on your boots here.
Yeah.
Because it's so slick. So we went into a local sporting goods store there in Kodiak, got some picked up and everything. And then, while we were there, started glassing, and just constantly, man. I mean, we were in the rain. It rained the whole time. We'll get a little break, and then when the fog and you get a break, you're just on the glass, right? You're trying to find a buck. And we started finding some bucks pretty quick, so we started kind of coming up with plans like that, because if the rain comes back in, you know where the buck is in a general area. So you can take off in the rain and fog and get up in there. And we got in there and just, there's four of us, so we split up 2 and 2. And, the brothers, man, they got in there and got a buck located, and all day long we're out and just waited them out, and, got in there and got them killed, and got in late, just soaking wet, but they got it done. And it was super cool, man. They pushed hard and got them. And the guy I was hunting with, we only got to hunt a good, about a day and a half, because we kind of that half day when we got in, and we hunted a full day together, and he ended up tweaking his knee and kind of hurting his knee and stuff. And, it's pretty physical, through all the alders. It's real thick brush, and you're, going straight up about 2,000 feet elevation or so. And so anyways, he had put on a stalk, unfortunately wasn't able to make anything happen. And then that day tweaked his knee. So then the next day I was kind of getting a game plan together, and he got, he woke up and he's, man, I'm not gonna be able to go, my knee's not working out for me and stuff. So he ended up, actually leaving. So, I didn't want to intrude on the brothers. They were kind of doing their thing and everything like that. And I said, I got a pistol, and I mean, there hadn't been a killing by a brown bear on Kodiak in almost 50 years. So they have a abundance of food, and they get hunted up there, so they really don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously your head's on a swivel and you're paying attention, but so I wasn't too worried about it. I mean, I was definitely cautious, right? But I had a good game plan together. I told them, and I knew I glassed a buck up way up in a bowl, probably 2 miles, where I knew that buck was up in there. And I just kind of told them what my plan was. I said, I'm going to go kill that buck,
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I hiked up in there, and it was a long day. I woke up early that morning, worked up to the ridge. Well, I didn't necessarily want to hunt that buck, but I just knew where he was. And I'd glassed up a couple of other deer, so I had a plan on the way I wanted to work up this ridge and a couple other drainages on the way, and was just kind of taking my time and hoping to find something a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And so kind of hunting. I just kept finding does and just couldn't find a buck, And so I'd get on the glass and I'd check back over there, and he's still over there. So I was like, I'm going,
Is size any consideration out there, or is it just like they're all kind of about like the one you shot? Do they get big? Do they stay, because they look like a small whitetail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's, if it's 100-inch, it's a stud. Yeah, it's a stud, right? So, we glassed up on an average. Most of our bucks were pretty nice. They were 70 to 90-inch bucks. I didn't really see any little fork horns or anything. They were all pretty decent bucks that we saw. And the one that the one guy killed, he was hard horned, great buck, really nice buck, probably, I would say 95-inch buck, he's a really good buck. And so this buck, I can't remember if we could tell if he was in velvet or not. I can't remember.
So were you on the spotting scope when you saw him 2 miles away, or did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So and then as I got in closer, and I can't remember if I could tell he was in velvet or not. I couldn't remember. I just saw he looked like a decent buck, because if you can see a rack far away, it's a decent buck, right? So it was so up in the Alpine, right? So no vegetation really. You got 20-inch grass up there and land features to kind of work with. And where he was bedded was he was up in the back of a bowl in the just about 100 yards down of the saddle, and this peak, mountain up here. And my plan was to work this ridge over, come up over this back ridge, but he was bedded facing that saddle about 100 yards below it. So I figured I'd get on that backside of that ridge, and I'd work down that ridge, and I would just kind of post up, and I would just keep an eye on him until he either got up to feed or because I couldn't do anything. He was staring right up at that ridge. And I get up there on that backside, and it wasn't long. I mean, I sat down, I get a snack and having some water, and, I'm kind of peeking over and looking at him. And I mean, it was 10 minutes. I look up and he stands up. I'm like, okay. So I start kind of putting stuff in my bag, and I watch him, and he stands up and he stretches and he turns around and beds back down. I was like, oh my gosh, perfect. You couldn't ask for better, right?
Yeah.
It was windy too. Up on that ridge, that wind, boy, it was blowing. But I had good wind. That was the reason I went up on that side of that ridge and worked that way instead of the other way, because that wind, I believe, was coming out of the south, kind of a crosswind. So it was a great wind for me. So I worked down that saddle, and I come over, and luckily, because it looked really open. I thought, like, man, I'm going to have to crawl on my stomach 100 yards, but luckily it kind of would go about 20 yards and kind of drop a little bit.
Little shelves?
Yeah, those little shelves like that. So luckily I was able to use that to my advantage and kind of just scoot down it. Well, he wasn't, when he bedded, he was kind of at an angle. He wasn't fully away from me, so his peripheral still kind of had me a little bit. And so I definitely had to be cautious of that. And so I worked down, and I knew I was starting to get close. I was inside of 40 for sure. And so I'm like, I could peek up and see antlers. But I'm trying to shoot a range, and I can't get anything.
Too much grass.
Well, no, it's just I can't hit the antler.
Oh,
you know what I mean? All I have to try to get a bounce back is off that antler, right? And not even his head, just literally the antler. When I would come up and get his whole head in that rangefinder, boy, it'd turn on me. He'd catch it, and I would just fall straight back, and I was like, oh man. not like a whitetail. They don't see as many people, and they're a little bit more forgiving. But I knew because several tries, it kept happening. Every time I get up, boy, he'd turn his head and I'd drop back. So I knew I was starting to booger him up a little bit. So I started kind of that next little shelf. I was like, okay, that's about 20. I think he's about another 10, so I was trying to, because if I boogered him, I was like, I need to have something locked down, and I said, I'm pretty sure he's at 30. So I made sure my pins were good, 30. I was like, if he stands up, if I do get him boogered up and he stands up, I'm going to shoot for 30. I believe he's at 30. So I said, I'm going to keep trying to get my range on him, the best I can, but shoot for 30 if he stands up. So sure enough, after a couple more attempts, he finally, he knew something wasn't right, and so he stands up, but when he stood up, he didn't turn in towards me any. He just stood straight up. So he was hard quartered on me pretty good, but as soon as I saw him standing up, I came to my knee and drawing. Basically, as he's coming up, I'm coming up, in sync. And I settled on him, and so what was funny is my release. I shoot a spot hog wrist release, and I had just sent off my release because it got all gummed up, messed up, and they rebuilt it for me and everything, and that trigger was a hair trigger. And that was my backup. And I'd been shooting with my other release. I have 2 identical releases, and just the pull and everything was a little harder on the one I've been shooting. Well, I carry my extra one in my bino harness, and I left my regular one back at camp. So I had to use my backup one. Well, it had that hair trigger on it, and I hadn't been shooting, it was definitely a lot lighter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So as soon as I'm settling my pin and I'm resting my finger, I mean, that thing, it breaks on me, and I'm like, uh-oh, like it was a complete surprise. And I'm like, oh, and I was coming, I was getting settled in on them, so it wasn't terrible, but when it hit them kind of, obviously I was aiming towards that back rib and on that off shoulder, and I hit them a little low. But when it went in, I mean, it cut him good. You know what I mean? And he takes off, and we're at the Alpine. It's flat, open, and he kind of takes off. And so now I'm in the heat of the moment. And looking back now, I should have he probably was going to run 50 yards and stop, I got excited, I was trying to knock an arrow, and I was like, no, I'm thinking, get an arrow in him, get an arrow.
Yeah.
So I kind of pushed towards him, and then he'd run out a little bit. It's going to be getting dark here, in a couple hours. And, and like I said, I'm just trying to make the best decision, right? I owe it to that animal. And I'm trying to calculate and weigh my odds, and everything like that, and watch him, and just trying to make these decisions, and everything's happening so fast, and that time, and clock is just ticking, and and that rainstorm's coming, so all this stuff. And so finally I keep kind of going, and he beds down. He finally beds. I'm like, perfect. All right, I'll just set. If he stays bed, I will not push no more. I will just stay right here. I will not move. He beds for like 2 minutes and stands back up. And he never saw me, because I was tucked away pretty good, and watching him, and he bedded down, for like 2 minutes and stands back up, and then starts walking again. I'm like, man. So once again, I'm getting nervous, but like I said, just watching his body language and the way he kept, kind of hunching up like that, I knew he was hurting. So now it's probably past 8. I can't remember what time it was getting dark, around 10, the days are long out there. So finally, just with the time crunch and everything like that and the decision, I said, you know what? I'm going to get up, and I'm just going to I'm going to just press towards him, and really just try to just press towards him. And when I did, he takes off, not with a crazy amount of energy, not like a full speed, but a decent little trot. And I'm just staying on him, and I'm watching him. I can see, and then he drops down. There's a little creek down there. He drops down to that creek, and then I see him cross, and he starts coming back up the other side. And the other side for me is about, I range it. It's about 75 yards. So I'm trying to get an arrow knocked. Well, when he starts coming up that other side.
If you guys are anything like us, you love being in the deer woods and chasing big bucks. But there's another part of you that has that itch to chase other big game species.
If you've ever dreamed of chasing black bear, mule deer, or moose, Alberta, Canada is the land of opportunity for these adventure-style hunts.
Each year, hundreds of first-time visiting hunters from around the world come to Alberta for the options, quality, and accessibility that the land offers.
With over 1,800 Boone and Crockett entries and endless possibilities of taking multiple species on a single trip, Alberta is truly a paradise for a big game hunter. This is why we partnered up with the Alberta Professional Outfitters Society. To check it out, go to apos.ab.ca and click Find an Outfitter. From there, you can browse all the different big game species and hunting styles that fit with what you want out of the hunt.
Or you can send a free hunt inquiry through the Follow the Lead tool, and the outfitters who have what you are looking for will reach out to you directly.
So make sure to check out apos.ab.ca to learn all about hunting in Alberta and get connected to the right outfitter for you.
He falls over, just exhausted, you know what I mean? And then he just lays there. So I'm like, okay. And that's when I slipped into about 75. And when I did, and I'm trying to get a range, and he gets up, and I have an opportunity. I get my sight dialed, and I'm trying to get that shot. And he kind of has a little burst of energy, and he runs up and goes in these alders out of sight. So I'm like, oh, man. So I'm like, once again, I'm like, wow, what do you do? What do you do? I'm like, okay. So the vegetation, now we're getting down by this creek. The vegetation's starting to get thick.
Yeah.
We're starting to get in that thick vegetation, and I can see his trail that he's mowed through there. So, and then as I'm walking through it, the blood is just, there's blood, you know, where he's dragging through there. I drop down right where he crossed. I come up that other side, and there's blood going up, and I come up that other side, and I'm just following the blood now. And it comes into some alders, and I can see a trail going through, and I'm following it, and then all of a sudden there's no blood. So I'm like, okay, I stop, I back up, I get to that last blood, and I'm looking, and I look, and I see a tunnel going into this thick stuff, and I see blood back in there. So I fight my way through there, and I about step on him. You know, he's laying there. And so I kind of peek to look, you know, at him, and he jumps up, you know, and he runs through some alders, and he stops about 10 yards on some alders. And luckily I was able to find a gap through those alders and get an arrow, you know, and get an arrow in him. You know, he was hurting bad. And I stuck with it. And, you know, people might say, hey, you idiot, what were you doing? You know what I mean? Like, hey man, I was just trying to it's a high pressure situation. I was trying to calculate everything and make the best decision at the time, you know. And hey, it worked out, you know, and I was able to get them, and got over there, and, you know, was able to radio the brothers, and I had my radio off all day, you know, and I radioed them and told them, you know, I got them, and, you know, the blessing, you know, one of them said, hey man, I'm come help you, you know. So I said, hey, thank you. I owe you.
Yeah, very welcomed right now.
Yeah, so I got over there and started getting them broke down, and a little nervous, you know, bears, you know, I mean, obviously. And so I'm just kind of watching over my shoulder and trying to get this thing broke down. And, you know, he hiked a good ways over there to me, and I had them broke down and bagged up, and about then it was dark. Right as we finished that up, the rain, that storm hit.
Yeah.
It starts dumping on us. We're a mile and a half from camp. We're in the thick. We're in this draw where that creek runs down. We're in the alders and thickness. And so we load them up, and we start heading back to camp. And, I mean, this stuff is so thick, man. And we're trying to work our way through it. So then we have the idea, we're like, well, maybe we get down in the creek, and we'll just walk in the creek, and it won't be so thick and bad. Well, no, we just got in the creek, got soaking wet, and it was still just as bad. But we pushed. It took us a couple hours, you know, 2 or 3 hours. I can't even remember. I think close to 3 hours, you know, to finally get back to camp. And we get back to camp. Well, guy helped me out. You know, I strapped my bow to the back of his pack, and my quiver with all my arrows, gone.
Oh,
so I got that, you know, that Matthews.
Yeah, quick disconnect.
Yeah, quick disconnect, you know, and I didn't even think about, you know, tying something on there to hold it. And I guess when we were all through that thick brush, it grabbed it and pulled it off, you know. And so I was like, man, that's pricey. So luckily, I onyxed our trail. way out, So I was tired. He was, man, a hero, man. He came into camp. I'm wanting to say he slept at base camp and then woke up early that next morning and then went and met up with his brother because he had killed and he was trying to get his brother on a buck. So he woke up early and he took out, and I was just, I just took it easy. I was sleeping and hanging out and just relaxing and everything like that. And that day, I think I just hung out at camp, and it rained pretty much most of the day. And then started prepping, got it was mid-50s, on the temperature. So, was trying to keep that meat cool and got them, we hung it, made a little rack to kind of hang that meat up, get some air on it. But I ended up putting in some contractor bags and soaking it in the lake to try to help keep it cool, that meat and everything. And then, that next day, I just kind of relaxed. And that full-on day, I went back in there and went back to the kill site. And got humbled real quick. A bear had definitely made it in there. And,
really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it looked like you took a bulldozer in there. It was unbelievable. There wasn't a speck of anything left. I mean, it was completely...
No bones, no nothing?
Nothing. I mean, it was mowed down because it was so thick. And I had cleared out a little area where I worked on them at, but there was an area around that was a good size that was just completely mowed down. The only thing that was left standing was a big pile of bear poop. I was like, well...
That was his thank you message.
Yeah. So I was like, you're welcome. Okay, I'm out of here. So I wanted to get back on that track, to see if I couldn't find my quiver. And, man, I followed it down, and I got to that river. And as soon as I got to the river or the creek, I looked down, and I can see my fletchings just barely sticking above the water.
They were in the river?
In the creek.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I could just barely see my white fletchings sticking up above the water, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. So went down there and got that, and then hiked back to camp, and then they ended up getting on a buck. He tried hard with the bow, and then Tom was kind of was pressing a little bit, so he decided to pick up the rifle, and then he ended up shooting a nice buck. And getting back to camp, and we were able to get everything situated and cooking some good backstrap and just enjoying the time being out there. And the day, so we messaged the float plane to see if they would be willing to come get us. We were tagged out, so they ended up coming to get us a day early. And so we woke up that morning, and after all the rain we had the whole time, I mean, the majority of the time was rain, little bit of breaks here and there. And the morning we woke up, beautiful day, no rain. It was perfect to pack up camp and get everything packed up and situated. And it worked out perfect, man. I mean, you couldn't have finished on a better note, We all got some bucks and loaded everything up. Plane came in, loaded up, and then got back on, into Kodiak and headed for the first restaurant. And got just gobs of food and just ordered so much food and just, enjoyed that. Yeah. And great people up there, man. The float plane people were great, worked with us. The local processor there worked with us, and did everything. The hotel we stayed at had a freezer. We put our capes, and we're able to get them frozen because we took our capes and our antlers. We're going to fly them home and then have the processor, process everything and then send it to us. And yeah, everybody is super cool and helped us out. And it was a really cool trip, something exciting.
So what can, on a day where you shoot your buck and then you're kind of chilling at camp the whole day by yourself, what does one do to stay entertained the whole day?
I was just on the glass, man.
Just hanging out?
I was on the glass, hanging out. I went over there, the lake. I did a little bit of fishing, but I mean, there's tons of fish. I can see them. They wouldn't bite anything, but I was hoping that maybe, I guess those salmon, they ran way up there. And but I guess when they're spawning like that, I mean, I'm not a huge fisherman and know much about salmon and stuff, but they don't really feed when they come up there.
Yeah. So
I was hoping maybe there was a trout or something I could catch, so we could cook it up too. So So I did a little bit of fishing. My brother gave me a really nice little fishing gift, little fold-up pole. It's got a spinning reel, or you can use it as a fly, rod, little nice little kit. So, I was very thankful for him giving me that, and I tested it out and used that. And then ended up glassing up some goats, not far from camp, just right there. So that was cool to just watch them and just glassing up deers, just to get my eye a little better. I've never really spent a whole bunch of time behind the glass. I've honestly been a little intimidated behind it. I'm kind of a real fast-paced type of person, like fishing and stuff. When I bass fish, I just kind of like to, throw and go real fast, and I like to just, stay pretty busy with it. So just trying to instill that discipline of just and getting that eye for finding them, because it was weird. Like, you'll scan right over them, but then when you see them, they poke out at you. So just trying to get my eye better, because I'm trying to. Well, I was supposed to mule deer hunt, this past year. I messed up with my hunting application and put in the wrong unit and stuff. I had the points and everything, but I kind of messed that up. So I was trying to, practice for more mule deer, because I know a lot of glassing with the mule deer stuff. So, yeah, that's what I was doing. Just basically, I was just sharpening my skills, just working on that, and I was enjoying it. I was just enjoying. You don't hear nothing out there. I mean, you're out there, you don't hear airplanes, you don't hear nothing. And no cell phones, no emails. It's just, we got the inReach and stuff. And basically, I touch base with my wife in the morning, one message, and that's it, and just trying to just really be there.
Be present,
and just really soak it in. And that beauty that's out there and everything. And it was just them, and I'm at camp. I'm just by myself, So at least when you're paired up, that's one thing. But when you're by yourself, alone, I think it's good. It's healthy. You find out some stuff about yourself. You know what I mean? So, and it was peaceful, and it was a good time.
Well, a lot of people don't want to be alone, because that's when all the things that you don't want to think about come.
Yeah.
And Lauren always says it to me. She's, I don't like that you're gone so often hunting, but she said you always come back just a little bit better, because you have time to reflect on the things that you do differently. The second this thing right here quits working, your brain goes, oh, let's think about all this. Let's think about all this stuff. It's very freeing. It's very awesome, too.
Yeah.
And I think it's needed, because there's probably people that have never spent more than 5 minutes away from that thing in decades.
That's a factory reset for me, like it's like you're saying. All these hunts, when I leave my family and stuff, it gives me a good time to sit back and reflect back at home and what I have and the people that are in my life. Sometimes we just get caught up in all of it, and we take it for granted, and we're just with each other every day, and we get aggravated with each other and that type of stuff. And for me, it's just I was doing a lot of that. It just, when I go on these hunts, it's just a big reflection time for me to think about my life, how blessed I am to be able to have these opportunities to do this, the support from my wife and my family that I can do this. And I really feel like I come home wanting to be a better man, because I'm so appreciative of that.
Yeah.
And I want to just show them that I am, so it makes me come home and want to be a better man.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a good book I read in college. John Eldredge wrote it, and it's called Wild at Heart. And it says that men have this insatiable need for adventure. And there's a lot of men that have no adventure in their life at all. And maybe it's because their wife isn't as supportive, or they don't go chase adventure. But it's when you do have all that, and you're allowed somebody to take care of things at home, so you can go do those things. It just feeds the soul.
Yeah.
It's
awesome, man. You're going to find out something about yourself, and maybe you're not going to like it. Maybe that's what some people, they're scared to find out a little bit about themselves. It's going to put things in perspective. Don't lie to yourself. You can lie to everybody else, but the truth, and kind of exposes that a little bit.
Yeah. So is this the first, obviously you've done some backcountry trips, especially like Colorado elk hunting and stuff, but is this the first, fly in on a float plane as remote? That was your first taste at all that?
Yeah, that deep of it, right? And I'm glad we did like a DIY stuff. Nothing against the guides and the outfitters and stuff. I think there's always a place for that, for sure. I guess maybe I'm a little stubborn, I like I like it. I like the toughness of it, you know, and I've done the DIY stuff and just putting in that work and studying and reading forums and just taking all this information and just trying to do it on my own. But yeah, as far as this much of an adventure, I mean, my other hunts I'd say are pretty adventurous. They're not that remote.
Yeah.
You know? Definitely challenging and tough just because I do it more DIY with the elk stuff, hunting very, you know, high pressured stuff, you know. And I've enjoyed it, you know. I really have. You know, I've only ever hunted Colorado for elk. I really enjoyed it. I like the place that I go. I've started to learn it, and but yeah.
So you're gonna do more of that remote stuff? Like, did that like open up a door, or is it like, hey, I kind of want to do this just every once in a while? Is it something you want to do?
Oh no, I that was a good jump start for me because I've been just kind of putting it off, right? You know, because you're kind of intimidated by what you don't know,
sure,
right? And just because most of this hunt is logistics. It's the logistics, and that's what's scary. And when you just don't know, you know what I mean? You're like, man, you don't know the planning and the flights, and that's a big part of it is the logistic wise. And this right here shown me like it's not as hard as you think it is. You just have to know what to do. That's the hard part of understanding on what to do to make it happen. So no, I definitely want to do more hunts. You know, I'm always going to be chasing those adventures. You know, I got bucket list stuff like that. I'm not necessarily set on one thing. The mule deer thing's a pretty big one. I was really set this past year. Like I said, I messed up on my tag application and accidentally put the wrong unit number that I was supposed to hunt, so I didn't get it. But I still got my preference points and everything like that, so I should get it this year. So the mule deer, I haven't got one, so that's, you know, pretty high up on wanting to get one. But it's just about opportunity, the adventure, the people that I'm going to do it with, all those things kind of come into play. You know, so I enjoy hunting solo. Like, that's why I didn't mind going. I'm like, man, I'm here. Like, I'm not going to hunt, right? And I enjoy hunting solo. I like to have a hunt camp and we do our thing. You know what I mean? And we all kind of hunt. I just feel like when I hunt by myself, I'm just so much more dialed in. I don't have to kind of worry about like whoever's with me, like what they're thinking or what they want to do. And no distractions, right? I can be really dialed in and make better decisions.
And if you mess it up, it's on you.
It's on me. Right.
Yeah, you don't want to hear a leaf cracking like, dude, come on.
Right.
You know, like,
right.
And you're always more perceptive on what somebody else is doing than like, well, I'm like always watching the person with me and they're always watching me. So we're like watching each other. And I'm like, if it was just me, I'd just be doing my thing.
Right.
You know, so I get that.
Yeah.
I definitely get that. So you were in Kodiak. You went and you did the Sitka Blacktail thing. And then where'd you go from there? You went straight to Colorado?
Yeah. So I came home for about 5 days. See my wife and kids, and
just enough time to get settled back.
Yeah, maybe a little more than that. Maybe I was home for 7 days, something like that. Pretty short, and then turned around and right back up to Colorado. You know, and yeah, like I said, the unit we hunt, it's been fun. Yeah, so how that all kind of came about, really mainly like back in 2015, I wanted to get in elk hunting. Growing up in Texas, not having anybody I knew that went up there and hunted or anything like that. I didn't know anything about it, how it worked. The people I did talk to, it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It was so hard to do. It was so out of reach type of thing. Then throughout my life, I had a chance to live up in Colorado for a little bit and actually became a resident, was all excited, was trying to, you know, start learning then. I even thought about a guide school because they offer a guide school up there. I thought about getting into guiding and stuff. And then not unfortunately, you know, because my life turned out great because of this phone call I got and a job opportunity brought me back home type of thing. But I still kind of couldn't let the elk hunting and let all that go. And I was still kind of holding on to that guiding dream. And I'd met my wife and we were together for like, I think 9 months or so. And I told her, I was like, I called an outfit up in Colorado. I was like, hey, can I come work for y'all? Like just work around the ranch, anything I can do. They're like, well, we're looking for like a wrangler hand that could help out. They're like, but we're not going to pay you. They're like, we'll give you a cabin to stay in and we'll feed you. I was like, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I was like, so I told her, I was like, so, she wasn't too thrilled, but I was like, so I was still kind of hanging on to that dream, and we were still pretty new. And I was like, now I'm going to Colorado, let me go up there for this month. So I think I went in October or so, because it was rifles.
So this is like 2016?
2015.
15.
Yeah, this was the fall of 2015. And so I went up there and I volunteered for them, and I helped just kind of, help the guides get the horses ready in the morning, get them to the trailhead, if an elk needed to be packed out, go in there and help break it down and get it packed out and stuff like that. And then I'm just talking to the guides, I'm talking to the guides, I'm talking to the owners of the outfitter. I'm just like, I'm trying to learn, because I don't know anything about elk. They're herd animals. They're totally different. They're not whitetail. They're just a totally different animal. And so I'm just trying, and this is like hands-on experience right there. I mean, you can read forums, but you're going to get so many opinions and stuff like that. So I'm in there and I'm seeing this stuff and people, getting elk and all of this. And I'm like, oh man, this is great, type of deal. And it was a blessing, not getting involved into the guide stuff and everything. I think because my first dream that I chased in my life was motorcycle stuff. And so I thought if I become a mechanic, because I wanted to race dirt bikes, if I become a mechanic, I'd still be able to be involved in all this. And basically it worked out good the way it did. I could keep hunting my hobby and not make it my career. And then I was fortunate to make a great career with electrical and build a company and do all that stuff to allow me to hunt and enjoy it, and not kind of get burned out with all, doing a lot of guiding and not getting to hunt type of stuff. And
dude, you got to pause there. I think the hunting guide might be the worst job ever if you like to hunt. I used to think I'll just be a guide. And then I watch the guides. I'm like, dude, didn't you want to shoot that?
Right.
You called it in. You did all the work.
So it worked out perfect. So I come home. My friend had a little, I don't know, 400 square foot little apartment at his house that he was letting me temporarily live in. And my wife now, your girlfriend at the time, was kind of staying with me. And I go off on this adventure and I come home and she's like, I bought a house. So she buys a house while I'm gone. So I'm like, okay. So anyways, I was like, yeah, I'm going to give that dream up. I was like, it was a cool experience, and I still was getting that intel like that. So anyways, her dad kind of knew, and he's killed some couple nice elk. He's more of a rifle hunter, for elk and stuff. And he's killed some decent bulls and everything. So he 2016, he asked me, he said, hey, would you like to go to Baja and go on a big fishing trip? Or would you like to go on elk hunt? I said, man, I want to go elk hunt.
Yeah.
I want to go elk hunt. But my envision of an elk hunt was like camping in the back country, hiking in, going and finding the elk, I didn't want to do none of this sitting in the tree waiting type of stuff. I was over that.
You can whitetail hunt at home.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so I'm all right, and so we go and, get to cabin, they're nice cabin and everything like that. But, and then they leased out some land, and a guy that he had went up there with or whatever. And, so he leased out land, and we get there, and they're like, okay, well, you're going to sit right here, all day. And I'm just like, okay. So I sit there all day and freeze, and didn't see any elk. I saw I think I saw 3 shooter mule deer. One walked up 10 yards on me, just a beautiful. It was a group of them come walking in, man, and he was just a beauty, probably a 180 class buck, walks up 10 yards. My wind, I could feel that wind coming off of me, and he walked, and as soon as he got in that band of that wind, boy, he stopped, and he didn't blow out of there, but he kind of trotted and kind of circled back around. But just that experience, and I was videoing him on my cell phone, of course. My cell phone runs out of storage space, right? So I only got part of the video when I started videoing him far away. So I didn't even get it when he was up close and personal, but I still did get some video of him. And so, that was neat. That was cool. Just still, I was getting closer, right? I was getting closer. And one morning I did walk in the dark and I heard some elk. I could hear them before sunup.
Just kind of rustling around? Or...
Yeah. I think they heard me or smelled me when I was coming in, and they were there was kind of a little knob with a little thicket of timber, because the other guy had glassed them up, and it was just a herd of cows and some calves. But anyways, so we only hunted for I think 3 days, and nobody saw anything, and they're like, okay, we're leaving. So I was like, okay, and so I was still a little bummed out because I still didn't scratch that itch that I was looking for. You know what I mean? So come the next year, I kind of knew a couple of spots in Colorado and stuff. So I kind of, was trying to find somebody to go up there and hunt with me, and didn't, I was intimidating, going up there by yourself and everything like that. So I found one of my cousins to go with me. And unfortunately, he just wasn't in the physical condition to really, still do what I wanted to do, really hike and get back in there and everything. So it was still a cool experience, and we made the best we could with it and tried to go sit in some meadows and just, watch them and just, just do the best we could with it. So that was 2016 and then 2017. And then 2018, I said, okay, I'm done. I'm done with the rifle. Well, first off, I thought rifle, right? I was like, well, I'll go do the rifle thing first and get me an elk with the rifle, and it'll be easier and, type of deal. And then, and it can sometimes be harder, and because they're not talking no more. It's a big animal and some big country, and they get through it real easy, so.
And they disappear quick.
Yeah. You watch them go 10 minutes. That's a 5-hour hike for you, So, so I said, you know what? I'm going to go on archery season. They're talking. At least they're bugling. At least I know somewhere over there's one over there, right? And at least that's going to help me out a little bit. So I made a post on Facebook and was like, look, man, I'm looking. Now, this is serious. Like, I'm looking for somebody that wants to backpack in. At the time, this unit was an over-the-counter unit. So I'm looking for somebody that wants to backpack in, go in here, and seriously try to hunt these elk. I said, I know some trailheads. Not much, but I know a couple of places where we can at least park and start.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy out of Jersey, lived up in New Jersey. He reached out. He said, man, I've always wanted to do it. Just hadn't had nobody to go with. I said, let's do it, man. So got on Facebook Marketplace, I literally bought a used pair of boots for $35. Okay. I bought a used pair of Irish setter boots.
Getting Western.
Oh, dude, I bought a pack. It was like $60 and just basically like Goodwill, Facebook Marketplace, and just trying to I wasn't going to go drop thousands of dollars. I didn't know what to buy.
Yeah.
I could go spend thousands of dollars and buy all the wrong gear. So, just kind of, we put together our stuff and everything. And man, looking back now, and Joey, when you watch this, it's going to bring a smile to his face. 'Cause man, looking back now, you got to see the picture. I'll show you. But our packs were just ridiculous. I mean, we had 85, 90 pounds. We had the kitchen sink, man. I mean, we had everything. We packed our fears, right? And we didn't know. Yeah. And it was just hilarious looking back. You see a picture of us, and our pack is just, we have stuff
6 foot long
hanging off everywhere, man. But so I had this spot picked out. We had kind of been looking at it on the map, and well, I had another buddy that lived up in Colorado Springs, and at the time, over-the-counter units, you can pretty much hunt any over-the-counter unit. And he's like, man, my buddy killed an elk over here or whatever, and they said there's some more in the area. So we kind of veered off a track, and we're like, okay, well, let's go up here. So we went up there. Well, this unit that we went to, they allowed just dirt bikes and ATVs and stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, dude, people were just everywhere and riding around, and
you were hitching a ride to the next good trailhead.
Yeah, so we had got in literally, and we hiked down this little draw, came back up the other side. It got dark. We camped, and then that night we were like, let's just go to the spot that we were originally going to go to, and it was like 3.5 hours on the other side of Colorado. You know what I mean, from where we're supposed to go, but. We woke up that morning, we're breaking everything down. I look up on the ridge and there's a cow elk. And I'm like, well, that's cool. But we're like, no, let's go to the spot. I said, I know this other spot and everything. And there's no ATVs or dirt bikes allowed or anything like that. We didn't want that. So we drive down there, and I believe it was a Monday. We get down there, and we're kind of looking at the map where we can kind of hike in and set a base camp. We find this trailhead, and we're talking to some guys. There's a lot of people at the trailhead and everything. But one thing I've learned is don't get discouraged at the cars at the trailhead. It does not matter. You have to put it in perspective. 20 cars at the trailhead even if they got 5 people in each one of them, even all those people, the size of a human, and you look at those mountains and how little they are in those mountains and those pockets that those elk can hide, I just learned, do not let that bother you. You know, I mean, it's only hurting you. You know, those elk are out there. You know, they're smart, even with the pressure and stuff. You know, that you don't hunt off of luck, you hunt off of skill. You got to get on those maps. You got to start thinking outside the box, looking for any little pocket. Maybe over here, let's go check here. Maybe nobody's checking here, and just think. So what we had figured out, I think that trailhead was about 8,200 feet. Well, there was a four-wheeler trail that runs up about 4 miles, and it goes up, you know, and it gets up to 11.5, you know, and everybody was taking that trail, and they were all going up there. So they were all in that same area because they just thought elevation. You got to get back in there deep, elevation, you know, and maybe you do. And I don't know. I'm still learning. But we said, well, we're going to go over here. You know, we were talking to these guys or whatever. They're maybe making fun of us. I don't know, because they're kind of making some comments about our packs and stuff like that, you know.
But you're carrying a mobile home on your back.
We're like, hey, look, man. Hey, this is our first time. We're just excited to be out here. You know what I mean? Like, we're excited. And Joey's a great bow hunter, man. Whitetail bow hunters. You know, he's hit same thing. He grew up in Jersey. They didn't rifle. I don't think they have a rifle season, shotgun, you know. But
listen, guys, we wouldn't be able to do the podcast if it wasn't for you all. So we just want to say that you guys are greatly appreciated, and thank you for following along each week.
And speaking of support, we are partnered with Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, Matt and Chase are great, down-to-earth guys, and they make some of the best saddle hunting products out there. Whether you're looking for a set of climbing sticks or a mobile, lightweight, hang-on tree stand, or maybe you're even a one-sticker.
You mean tree Pilates?
Yes, tree Pilates. If you've been to the grocery store or the gas station lately, you know that Uncle Joe is doing his absolute worst to take all your money. That's why we need hunting gear that lasts year after year. And trust me, I've been rocking the same Out on a Limb Shakar climbing sticks for 4 years and the Ridge Runner 2.0 saddle hunting platform for a few years as well. This gear is built to last.
We can confidently say that Out on a Limb is the best bang for your buck.
And it's the best gear if you want to deflate a big old buck.
Ooh. Make sure you use code HNTA15 at outonilimb.com for 15% off anything on their website.
So if you can show them the same support that you guys show us, please go to outonilimb.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Just a great hunter, you know, and we only kind of knew each other. You know, we weren't real close friends, but I'm gonna tell you, go in the mountains and spend some time with somebody, you become close friends. You know what I mean? And we
worst enemies.
No, so you build a great relationship, and so we had a little bit of a game plan, you know, and so we went down by the river, found us a nice little spot, and set up a little base camp. And Monday we go in and we just decided, hey, look, we're not going to bugle, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to go in here, kind of, you know, scout, look for sign, everything like that. There was a ridge. We decided, hey, let's work up this ridge, get up to this vantage point. Maybe we'll glass some, check it out. And so we did. We hiked down. We got up to this vantage point, and over there on my shadow box behind you there's a 444 straight cartridge. It's right next to the rabbit tails. See the rabbit tails there?
Oh, yeah.
See, yeah. That long, tall one right there. Yeah. The straight cartridge, a 444, and we're sitting there on that glass knob, and I look down, and that shell casing sitting right there, you know, and I pick it up, you know, so it's kind of cool. And I was like, man, just think who is sitting here, you know, maybe they shot him a good, nice bull, because we were kind of watching a nice little ridge down below us, you know, so I picked that up, and that was pretty cool. And as we're sitting there, and we had literally just walked up through there, and we see a cow elk come over, you know, we're all excited because we'd never really seen many, you know, all right, you know, and she had a calf with her, and well, they go down under this little tree, and they're over there doing something. And we're like, what? Are they eating something? Like, what are they doing? We literally just walked through there, you know? So we're like, I wonder what the heck's going on over there. And then they kind of worked their way back over. So when we went down, we went over there where they're at, and there was a little hole in the ground that had a little stream of water running through it, and they knew where it was, and they were getting a drink, you know, and they're like, oh, that's cool. On X, you know, we make a mark, you know.
Nature's water fountain.
Yeah, we're like, well, there's a water source right there, you know, and that's what we're doing, just dropping pins and trying to do that. And So anyways, we get back to our camp because we had hiked a pretty good amount that day, and we get back to camp, and Joey's just kind of on the maps, and he's looking and everything. And I was kind of in my tent doing my thing, and we wake up that next morning, and Joey's like, "Hey, man," I was looking at the maps over here, this kind of the opposite direction we went. He was like, "There's a couple nice little drainages over here. Maybe we should go check those out." I said, "Man, let's do it." So we hike over there, and we get, rewind back that day before, we found some old sign, nothing fresh at all, So then the next morning we're going, and we get up and we find a rub, nice rub, fresh rub, good sized tree. We're like, all right, that's pretty good, that's hopeful. And mind you, September 18th, we're at 8,300 feet elevation. And people will say, you'll read forums, but you got to be 11,000. You got to be 10,000 plus at least, And I'm like, maybe so. We're at 8,300 feet or so, somewhere around in there. And we get in there. We find two trees. I remember these two trees side by side, about 20 inches apart. Both of them just shredded. We're like, all right, man, pretty good bull,
Yeah.
We're like, all right, we got a rub. We just found some other rubs. We're like, all right, so we're getting excited. So we're like, so Joey's like, maybe we should try to bugle. We hadn't bugled to this point. I was like, if you've practiced bugling and you haven't bugled and used the diaphragm, and I never really turkey hunted much or anything like that, and so it was pretty rough, my calling. But I said, okay, let me give it a go. So I'll rip a bugle out. And we're sitting there, and we hear a response, but it was far. Real far, and you're in high pressured country, you're like, is that a hunter? Is that an elk? Like, what is it, right? So we hear it, and we're just like, we look at each other, and we're like, all right, man, like, so I bugle again, and we're sitting there, we're just waiting to hear a bugle, and nothing. So we're kind of like, oh man, we kind of get down pretty quick. Oh man, so we wait a couple. All right, let's try it again. So I rip another one. Boom, he bugles back. And it's close, or a lot closer. We can tell, like, okay, he's coming. There's no way that's a human. The amount of distance that he's coming, like, or from those two bugles, that has to be an elk to cover that much ground. So basically, I knew nothing about elk call. This is my first bugle I ever let in the wild, dude. And so I'm like, well, what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to bugle, and when he bugles, I'm going to try to mimic what he's doing, because I knew from watching videos and stuff, to try to match his, level of aggression, everything like that. Well, the thing is, he was mainly chuckling, instead of the drawn out, but he was just constant, just a deep chuckle. So I'm like, I don't know how to chuckle. So I was like, I'm just going to keep bugling then, just nothing crazy, just bugling. And man, he comes over the drainage, and the ridge, and gets into our drainage. And then it really amplifies now that he's in there with us, and we're just freaking out. We're like, and this is all happening relatively pretty quick. So me and Joey are kind of staggered. He's kind of behind me to my right, and the bottom of the drainage is like right in front of us, like the lowest part of that drainage. And he comes over, and we watch him, and our thermals were pulling down that drainage, and he comes over almost straight across from us. But when he comes off, he drops down, naturally. And we're like, oh man, we don't hit, and he just gets quiet. So we're like, man, did he smell us? What happened? So we're just kind of sitting there anticipating it, and then boom, he chuckles up, and then we see him coming. He's on the other side, and he's walking straight back up. He comes up, turns, drops down. When he drops down at drain, he's just out of sight. And when he drops down, we both draw back, and he comes up. As soon as he comes up, he stops, turned, looking right at us, 14 yards. I got him at 14 yards. Joey's at about 16. He's staggered. Well, I had a little tree limb that was coming up right up his front leg, and it was wide. It was a little wide tree limb, so I'm draw back, and I'm like trying to move, and Joey was giving me a second, and then I just see an arrow, bam, you know what I mean? And I'm like, and he takes off, and we look at each other, and we're like, did that just happen? Like, is that elk hunting? Like, we let a bugle in.
Yeah.
And it comes right in. I'm like, is this real? And then we're all freaking out. And then we hear something. Like, what's that? Well, a cow. And back then, over the counter, you could shoot a cow or a bull. Well, a cow, I guess he had a cow, probably just had that one cow. And she literally comes just like he did, comes down, drops down where he dropped down. I draw back, and I'm like, well, she didn't come up. She stayed down in that bottom, and she turned and went down and ended up winding us and taking out of there.
So, were you going to shoot her?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. You know what I mean? I was like, I got a tag, I mean, I'm we're getting some meat. We going home. We did it. You know what I mean? So anyways, so we go to look for him. Not much blood, but I saw the arrow. Good penetration. Hit him good, but like no blood. And then we're trying to figure out like, okay, so I was like, well, let's just start grids. He's down somewhere. And I'm, so we just started doing circles, and I'm glad Joey found him, started hollering. He shot him. He found him. That was great, and I guess he come over a little knob full speed because his jaw was broke. When he come over that little knob, I guess he expired and he came over and just face planted. His jaw was,
like the other direction?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I guess he just expired when he was coming over, you know what I mean?
Stride or something?
Yeah, and just come over and landed and face planted. And so we got some pictures. Joey's a little upset we didn't even think about the bow. He didn't get a bow in the pictures. So everybody's like, thought he shot it with a rifle. He was like, oh, man, I wish I'd have a bow in there. But we got some good pictures. It was a decent little 5x5, and it was a good honorable bull for good, for that area and everything like that, man. And I remember we got back to the trailhead and some guy there. Where'd y'all find? How did y'all kill it now? We're not hearing nothing. We're not seeing nothing. It's dry out there. Nothing, And we're like, oh, yeah, we just shot him right over there. I was like, y'all are all up there hunting, probably spooked him, and he came and found a little pocket down low, and nobody's even over here hunting. Everybody's hunting at 10,000 plus, and he's sitting at 9,000 in between 8 and 9,000 right here. So it worked out great. And anyways, we got them all packed out and all that good stuff. And then we rested, it was oh man. And we didn't know at the time, we hiked back a couple of miles to our base camp and then up hiking them out. And it was pretty tough. There was a horse trail, not even a quarter mile from where we were at, in an easy hike out to this other trailhead. We just didn't know the area at the time, and that horse trail wasn't on Onyx. You didn't know it was there. So, but anyways, and then we went back in Thursday, ended up calling up another real nice bull, like a nice 6x6, probably like a 250 style bull, but for that area, great bull, over the counter and stuff. But we just didn't know. I had him in some open aspens, and he hung up at like 120 yards and like didn't know what to do. And we're like, and he wouldn't come any closer because he can see. And then he left, and instead of running up some and then having him call and getting ready, we just called again, and I called him back again, but same thing. He came to about 100, and that was it. And then he ended up leaving. It was still a great experience,
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was kind of how that started. And then we went back the next year, and then the reality of it all set in. You know what I mean? And then we hunted 2019, 2020. My other buddy started coming. I think he started coming in 2020 or 2021. He started coming, and then it was tough, had some close calls. Every year, though, we did call in bulls, and we were always in the game. It was just, the next year, I think I had a bull at like 60, and I had a limb that I knew I was going to hit. I couldn't shoot him. I was like, I'm not even going to attempt it. That limb, I was like, I know that's not going to work. And then I ended up missing a bull. I misjudged like 38 yards. It was such an illusion. It was a hard angled shot down. And he looked like he was at 60 yards, just the optical illusion of everything and just how that panned out. I ended up shooting over him. And actually, that's the next year. That's right. I did end up shooting a bull, just a little 4x4. I hit him a little far forward. We thought we had a good shot on him. Had some good blood. It got dark on us. We let them lay. We came back that next morning and started tracking them, and had great blood. And we got on. There was bear tracks on the blood trail. We found his bed and everything, and I think that bear got in there and bumped him, and he went down in a drainage with a bunch of deadfall, and then was all over the place. And eventually, we just lost blood. We looked and looked and looked, and just couldn't find them. But yeah, and then we had some great years, and then a lot of close calls and stuff, but. Tough, man. Tough. But still always enjoyed it, as tough as it was, because when you do get it, it's so sweet. So basically 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So 22. don't think Joey hunted that year.
So you were going every year
since 2018 with the archery stuff. And then 2022, was it 22? Yeah. So 22, me and my buddy Eric, we go in, and Joey couldn't go or something. And then there was a couple of years there that me and Eric started going, and I started kind of expanding and finding some new spots. Me and Eric did, and same thing. We were getting on elk and stuff, and we are just still learning, just trying to figure it all out. And so we go 2022, man, and we go into the spot that we had found the year before, and we knew elk were in there, and we get in there, and we get across the river, and we kind of had a game plan. I let out a bugle. I get a response. We work that bugle. It's Eric's birthday, man, and we work towards them. I get in. I see some cows. This was super cool. I rip out a bugle. I didn't bugle. I cow called in. I only bugled a couple times, located them there about a mile away. We hiked all the way over. I was cow calling every once in a while. I quit bugling. I spotted the cows. I let out a bugle, and he rips one out, and I just hit him right back, and because I was starting to get a little bit better with my calling and stuff. And I just heard, at first I thought I scared him. I just heard sound like horses running. And I was like, oh, I just scared him out of here.
Yeah.
And I look up, and here he comes. Well, it was so loud, I didn't realize 3 of them. So one was coming like this. Well, 2 other ones I never even saw. I was zoned in on this one. Well, I'm drawn back. This thing, there's a tree about 5 yards. If that tree wouldn't have been there, he probably would have ran me over. He comes running in. I'm trying to get a shot through this tree. He stops. He's looking. He doesn't even see me. Eric was about 20 yards. Same thing, kind of staggered off to the side. And I couldn't get a shot, and I just see an arrow whack, right in him, you know what I mean? And then he takes off, and I'm like, well, when I look over at him, I look, and there's 2 bulls standing there looking at me about 30 yards, a spike and a 4x4 broke off on one side. So I'm like, it was a tough position because I was kind of down behind a log, and there was a low hanging limb. So I was kind of crouched down, and I was able to get drawn back, and I tried to, and it was a frontal, and I tried to, thread the needle, and I ended up hitting a limb, and it was a clean miss. Hit a limb, and they bailed out of there. And so we're like, dude, all right, you just put an arrow on them. And I wasn't sure about the shot 100%. It kind of looked like it was a little further forward so I couldn't really tell. So I said, let's give it a little bit, let's give it some time because, from what it looked like it was kind of far forward. So anyways, we sat there and we had a little bit of cell service. So we start texting all our buddies and everything. We're like, man, Eric just shot one. And while we're sitting there, I look over, I see a bear. And I got a bear tag. I'm like, oh man, there's bear. So we didn't think a whole bunch of it. And anyways, we gave it about an hour or so, and we started kind of looking for blood, and we had a little bit of blood and then nothing like that. And then, I see this bear, and I draw back on him, and it's kind of some thick vegetation in there, and he goes behind some stuff. So I go to let down, and when I go to let down, I hit my release, and just sticks right in a tree. I was like, oh man. So he kind of takes off, and so I go over there, and I'm trying to get my arrow out, and Eric's like, because we lost blood, it kind of blood, and then it lost it. And while I'm trying to get it out, he's kind of standing there looking around. He's like, oh man, there's some blood right here. Oh, there's much more. Oh, my elk. His elk was right there. So that bear, and it was like 10 minutes after he shot that bear, because it was the downwind. That bear had already smelt him and was coming up. So we get over to him, and his testicles, he had already got them. He already ate them off. Everything like that. So, you have to leave evidence of sex attached. So we're freaking out. We're like, we don't want to get in trouble. So we had service. We literally called the game warden in the mountain. We're like, hey man, what do we do? Is the scrotum there? We're like, yeah, the scrotum's still there. Like, we'll just leave that. Oh, okay, cool. We just wanted to document it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We took pictures and make sure, we were good. Definitely after all this work, don't want your animal to get confiscated, right? So, So we start, man, we're excited, we take some pictures and stuff, and he's just a little 4x4, but man, we worked hard for him, and that was Eric's, I think, 3rd year. This was my 5th year, and I still hadn't got one, you know what I mean? And I was happy for Eric, you know what I mean? It was his birthday, he got it. I'm like, I was pumped, I was so happy for him. And so we get them all loaded up and quartered and packed on the packs, and we're getting ready to go. Well, I catch something through the brush, and I look, I said, that's that bear. So I kind of go after him, and he spooks and he runs. So I kind of circle around. It was thick in there, and there was a little gap that I had. And I said, if he comes right here, I got him, and sure enough, he circled around and I see him. And so I draw and I wait. I had my range. It was 30 yards and he comes right in that gap and I shoot him and I hit him good, but he takes off and like, I don't know, man. My mindset like is I put a good arrow in him, but I'm like, I don't want this thing to get away. So I start after him, and he's running down the hill and I catch up to him, and he's going over. I put another one in him. And so now we're like, got a bear, got an elk. I'm like, okay. So in September, it gets pretty warm during the day yet. And so I was like, okay, well, I kind of messed up my bear. I should have really skinned them out, and I gutted them and everything. And I got them up in a thick tree because it was cool up in that shade, and I kind of hung them up in that tree to get that air and stuff. But those flies are so bad in there and they lay those eggs and stuff. But anyway, so I told Eric, I said, man, we've got to get your elk out. There's bears. But while we were quartering his bear out, we hear something. I stand up, turn around 5 yards. There's a sow with 2 cubs. Come right in on us. When we turned around and stood up, they kind of spooked. Those cubs went up a tree. She growled at us. Finally they came down and they took off. So I said, man, there's some bears in here. We got to get your meat out of here. And we just didn't, we were trying to hang it and it was tough. It's hard to find a perfectly good limb and stuff. They're all, So anyways, we're like, man, I'm going to tell you, Eric is a tough dude. I mean, I took the front shoulders, all of my gear. He dropped all of his gear. He took the rear quarters and the back straps, the tenderloins. That's a lot of weight.
In one trip?
In one trip.
Savage.
A lot of weight with the bone in. Okay. A lot of weight. And almost all the way to the truck. We got down because it was where this spot was, man. It wasn't that deep in there, but you literally had to drop straight down, cross a river, and straight back up. So we got all it situated, went back in. So he went back in to get the antlers and his gear, so he got his gear and antler, and I got that bear. And it's just a 1.5 year little boar, he's a legal boar and everything like that. So, I just loaded him up whole in the backpack, and it was dark, it was tough. We got turned around for a little bit, but we got that sorted out. We ended up getting out of there. It was a long day. We shot him at 9 in the morning. I shot that bear around 10:30, 11 in the morning, and we got out of there, I think, around midnight when it was all said and done. Got back, so we were super happy. We had some friends coming in, and they came and hunted a little bit with us, and then back to tough hunt. We hunted for 3 or 4 days, and I started kind of getting discouraged. And this is where a good hunting partner comes in to help keep your mind right. I was getting a little discouraged because it's easy to talk yourself out of it sometimes. The family, and
I got stuff I need to do at home.
I got my business, right? And this was, I think, my first year in business, and I'd only been in business like 6 months, and it's easy to be like, I need to get home and this and that. And we had a set amount of days, and Eric said, we've got 2 days. We're hunting. We ain't going home. We got 2 days. I'm here with you. We're going to hunt these 2 days, and we just I said, you're right, and it was good. Sometimes you need that, have a hunting partner to hold you accountable and just sometimes give you a pep talk and be like, hey man, remember we set out for a goal. We have the time. Everybody's accepted that. Our wives, we have this time frame. You just utilize it. So I said, you're right. So we got back on the maps and started trying to figure out a game plan. Well, when we hiked out of the mountain, we got in the truck and we were driving. I looked over and we saw these 2 guys, older gentlemen, and said, hey, let's talk to these guys real quick, And so we hopped out and started talking to them. They'd been hunting there like 25 years or something, that same unit, And this time now at this unit had turned to a 0-point draw unit. But anyways, got to talking to them, and we were talking about stuff. Well, there was this piece back behind a big private ranch that I had talked to Eric about before, but we had never went back there, And while we're talking to these guys, they bring it up. They and they start talking about it. And our ears kind of perk up. Because I'd already been thinking about it. And I was like, that's a sign, And we get in the truck, and it's funny. I was like, I think I know where we're going to go. And Eric looked at me and goes, we're going behind that ranch, aren't we? He said, as soon as they started talking about it, your ears perked up. I already knew. I said, are you good? Will you go back? It's a hike to get back in there, over 2 miles just to get through the ranch to get back in there. He said, I'm with you, dude. Let's do it. So we spent all day. We hiked through that ranch. We get back there. We start getting in pretty deep, and we get up on this, we gain some elevation, and we did get up. I think it is about 11,000 up in there. And so we get back in there, and it was getting evening, and we let off a bugle. I kind of get up on this ridge, and there's all these drainages, and they all kind of, there's a river down at the bottom, and all these drainages kind of meet. Big country, man, steep, rough, and let a bugle off. I get a response. I got 3 bulls. Well, it was late in the evening. We knew we can't do anything tonight. You know what I mean? So let's go back up to these meadows. And we started getting into some really good fresh sign and rubs and stuff like that. Let's go up in these meadows, get away from here a little bit. We'll camp, and then we'll come out in the morning, let a bugle, see if we get a response. So that next morning, it was our last day. Wake up, took my time, drank some coffee, ate breakfast, sun came up. Wasn't in a huge rush, just was enjoying it. Went out there, ripped out a bugle. I started firing up. All right, so that one right there seems to be the closest. This ridge right here kind of works down, we can follow this ridge all the way down there. And he was up in the drainage on the other side of the river, but from a tactic standpoint, he was the best one to go after terrain-wise and features and everything like that, so we kind of honed in on him. So we started working down. Well, that ridge that we started working down was an elk trail. It was just beat down. He's probably traveled that coming up to those meadows to feed. You could tell where they had been traveling. So we were just every so often just letting a bugle out, And then I could tell he was moving. He'd come out of the drainage, drop down, cross the river, and he's working up towards us. A lot of times they say, the elk won't do that. That's why I take that stuff with a grain of salt, because we've disproved a lot of this stuff that people say, like, oh, they don't do this and they don't do that. And it's kind of like, he was coming up the mountain to us.
Never say always, never say never.
Right. So we just kind of, he's coming and we're coming, and the wind was just, the stars were lining, everything was lining up. And so we're get down there, and I was mainly calling, and then I see antlers coming through the trees. And at that point, I told Eric, I said, all right, Eric, I'm going to haul butt, and I'm going to drop down here. You stay up behind this, cedar tree or whatever it was, pine tree or whatever it was, pretty thick tree, to stay up behind that thing, And what I'm going to do, because I can see them, I'll have this diaphragm, I'll let out a soft cow call for you to bugle. You know what I mean? I'll kind of be the cue for you to bugle. You know what I mean? So we can kind of communicate through that. So I drop down, I see him, and he's standing, well, he's looking, because we're getting in close. He's 120 yards probably when I spot him, and I run down another about 40 or 50, and I find a spot to kind of get set up. And just, it's still, I learned to get away from logs. You think about getting behind a big log and setting up, man, it can mess you up sometimes, and it almost did, but luckily things worked out. But anyway, so he bugles, I send him a signal, he bugles, and that bull, he bugles, but he's just standing there for, it seems like forever. It's probably 2 minutes, but he's just standing there. I can see him, and I'm like, okay. So I had another soft cow call, and he bugles again. Well, luckily he was on his toes, and Eric was thinking, man, he starts raking that tree. He hits that bugle, but then he starts raking, because the first time he bugled, he just bugled, right? And then he just made a judgment call, and he starts raking that tree. That's all it took. Here he comes. So I had my lane picked out because of the way, the way it looked like he was going to come was about 20 yards. It looked, I was like, the way he's angled and he's coming and this little lane, I was like, perfect. Well, he kind of pivots a little bit. I go to grab my rangefinder. I kind of fumble, and I was like, I don't have time, because I fumbled it, and I was like, I have this window right here, and he's going to stop right here, and I've got to take this shot. So I guesstimated, and he comes in. I shoot. I'm wanting to say he was like at 25, and I shot for 30. I hit him a little high, but when it hit him, I mean, he flipped, and he hit, and I was like, all right, but he jumps up.
Yeah.
And he takes off. Well, when he took off, I saw his back legs were just not working. Like that, he was like dragging his back legs basically, and he was just using his front legs. So I went into kill mode again. I took off running down the mountain. Binoculars are flying, and I'm trying to get an arrow, knocked up, and I was able to stop long enough, and he's literally dragging with his front legs, and I sling another arrow in him. I hit him back, but I got another one in him, and then he got down in a drainage, and there was a deadfall limb, and he got hung up. He couldn't get over it, and I was able to come in, calm down, boom, put a good finisher in him. But I hit him high. He was spewing blood, but my whole thing was, man, if I can get arrow in him. Yeah. Let's get them dispatched and everything. And so Yeah, got arrow in them, and so that was 5 miles. 5 miles in, we started looking at the map. But the good thing is, it was equivalent to Eric's 2 miles because his was super brutal deadfall and how steep it was and everything. Well, it was only about a mile. We found there was a horse trail, so we had to, and it wasn't a bad mile. So we were able to get over that horse trail and get hiked out and everything like that and make a couple of trips. Or we got out and then we woke up early that next morning and went in there and got the rest out. But it turned out we got, 2 bulls. I think I scored them at, I think my bull's about 260 is what he went.
It's a really nice bull.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, chocolate dark horn, just great, first bull, and just super, means a lot. It means so much to me, like the work and the time and the effort and everything that we put into it, and for both of us to get bulls, and I got that bear, and it was just beautiful hunt, and so, yeah, and then fast forward, so that was 22, and then 23, kind of the same thing. We just had a tough year, and then 24 this year. So now we're back up to date here with Kodiak and all that, and then so get home for 7-9 days, something like that. Then back to Colorado, me and Eric go up. He had a limited amount of time that he could hunt. We hunted together. We had a close call with a bull in a meadow. I tried to sneak up on. He kind of busted us. I ended up, shooting under him. I had a good range on him. He ended up moving, and but he kind of had us pegged, and I think it was what I shoot at 60. I think is what I had him. I had him ranged at 55, and he kind of moved some, and I just held what I originally had him ranged for. Ended up shooting just right under him, And then the next day we're hiking out. Saw a mountain lion, super cool. We're glassing and
awesome.
Checking a meadow. We woke up that morning, was watching that meadow and everything, and saw a mountain lion. So that was, my first one to really see. Is about 300 yards away. And
were you able to get it pretty clear in the glass?
Oh yeah.
Oh, so yeah.
So I kind of barely caught a glimpse of him. I was like, man, what was that? And I barely kind of caught a tail. I was like, man, was that a cat? So I kept glassing, and he cut about 100-yard little section between woods. It was about 100 yards, and he cut across, and I got to watch him the whole time. So that was super cool. And then we ended up, because we were up at around 11,000, we ended up dropping down. We're on the backside of this other ranch because we were in a totally different spot. But it was on the backside of this other ranch, and we dropped down back to like 8,300 feet or something, and we're just kind of, there's this little open meadow thing with it was kind of a marshy meadow with some tall grass, and we kind of walk up to it, and it looked kind of marshy, so we'll skirt around the edge like that, and what I go to step, and a little tree branch gets caught in my gaiter, and I tried to, when I stepped, I kind of shook my leg, and it didn't fall out, and when I stepped, it cracked it. 30 yards bedded right there. There was a tree with a shade spot, probably a 330 bull, just jumps up and takes off. Because when we walked up, because there was a kind of a big meadow, and then it tapered down. There was a smaller one, it's 40 yards across the thing, it was pretty small. And I walked up and I stopped and looked, but I didn't dissect it because his antler tips had to have been sticking up. But it just, that tall grass, it just blended very well, and man, and we had great wind. If we just would have been able to pick that up, and sat there and just waited, for him to stand up. Yeah. And he jumps up and just a stud of a bull. Your stomach just drops, and you just see a monster, and you're just like, oh, you ain't supposed to be there. You're supposed to be up there. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing here? Because we had bugled all morning, nothing talked at all. He wasn't talking, never said a word, So that was a little discouraging, But anyways, we kind of ran out of time. Because when we had first got there on that hunt, we ended up going back where I originally killed my bull, ended up hunting and got on a bull, and we had a close call. We had a wind shift on us over there, and he blew out. And I could tell that herd bull was in there, and that was him. You could just tell his tone and stuff. And anyway, so we went and hunted some other spots. Eric had to leave, and I was like, I don't want to go yet. So I was like, I'm going back into that first spot. And it was 5 miles originally. I ended up finding another way to get back in there, but it was only 3 miles, but it's straight elevation. It's super gnarly, but they had a burn a couple of years ago, so I was able to at least it wasn't too bad because everything was burned, and, it was straight up the whole time. But anyways, I went up there, and that was a cool experience. I went up there for 3 days by myself, got on that ridge that first evening, bulls were lighting up everywhere. And this is a high pressure unit, mind you. And these bulls are fired up. That herd, boy, I heard them. I tried to make a move on them. I was working down the ridge, and he was down, and I don't think it was him, but another elk. And I looked up, and he blew out of there. I couldn't tell if it was a cow or what it was, because I could hear some cows down low in the drainage, and he was up. And I had good everything, and unfortunately I looked up and there's a bust to me, and then he went quiet. And anyways, I went back up the top of the ridge. I camped up there, man. I had some storms come in, lightning, rain, high winds. At 10, it really held up. It was a good test for it, but it was something through some hail and just some heavy storms. Just being out there was super cool, and I spent 3 days out there by myself, and I had some bad weather. That first evening of those bulls, I was like, man, this is going to be great. They're fired up. Well, the next morning, there was still some pretty good action. And I tried to, go after a bull and close the distance on them. And then they would just go quiet. I was like, man, what is going on up here, And then some rain came in for a good day and a half, and I tried to tried to hunt in a break and ended up getting wet. And so I kind of regrouped, and I was like, man, after this weather clears, some good weather came. I was like, they're going to be fired up. Weather cleared, all pumped, go out, crickets. Because that first day I came in there, I had at least 6 or 7 bulls every direction. There was bulls fired up everywhere. I was seeing elk like it was, and then it's crazy. It went to like, there wasn't an elk one in there. And by this time, I'd already been hunting for 10, 11, 12 days. I can't even remember. And so I was just, and then from Kodiak to up there, and the miles that I put in and just everything. And see, in Kodiak, the day that my buddy tweaked his knee, I actually rolled my ankle. But luckily my boots, I kept it, so it was pretty sensitive, and I just was kind of pushing through that. And, but yeah, hunted hard. I always enjoy the experience, no matter what, just being out there and just being thankful for all that. And it was a good time, and then, got home and then shifted gears and whitetail.
Well, before you get to the whitetail, so solo hunting 3 days, backcountry in Colorado by yourself what's that like experience like mentally? Is it freeing? Is it kind of sketchy? Like most people aren't going to experience that ever in their life. What is it like solo hunting back there? Because there is no help coming for you back there,
For a while, right? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. So out of I guess this was my 18, 19, my 7th year. Always usually hunted with a partner, never had soloed really up there. We always usually hunted together. After coming back from Kodiak and the brown bears and that, I was like, they're just black bears here.
Yeah, I'm chilling.
Yeah. I was just like, like mountain lions, wasn't really too worried. You probably, need to worry about them more than a black bear. But I was just kind of like, be smart, make smart decisions, as far as crossing deadfall and things like that, and just being smart. But I felt good. I felt really good. The storms that I went through, the sunsets and just those storms and the colors and just the experience and the high winds and the hail and just that rain and just the whole thing, it was super cool. It really was, just how powerful it was, and just like I said, just being there, just being present, taking it all in, that appreciation of it all, clearing my thoughts. I was dialed in, trying my best hunting. Like I said, I'm an amateur, and I'm just always trying to learn and from my mistakes, reflecting everything, playing it back in my head. What could I do different? Trying to get a game plan, looking at the map, just constantly trying to, hunt with skill and not luck. I don't want to go out there and be like, well, I hope something walks by. It's like, I want to be tactical in what I'm doing, and just trying to be a student, always just trying to be a student and just taking it all in and being thankful. Cause I know that I hike out of there and I get in my truck and that could be the last time.
Yeah.
It could be the last time. Anything could happen. Physically, I could get hurt, and not be able to do it, or who knows. There's a number of reasons why it can never happen again. So just try to appreciate it and knowing, because one day we're going to walk out and that's the last time. You know what I mean? So
you're going to be armchair quarterbacking it from there. Yeah.
Man. So just the appreciation of it all,
Yeah. That gratitude's good. I think it keeps it in perspective because it's easy to kind of talk yourself out of it while you're there and how bad this sucks or how this hunt is going. But if you shift your mindset to being grateful just to be able to get to experience it, you probably hunt harder, you enjoy it more, you're more present, like you said. I think that's good.
For me, it's the journey and the process. Of course, we all want to have some nice animals and everything like that, but I don't put it all on those animals. You know what I mean? I don't let my happiness come from the size of the animal or if I get an animal. Or for me, like I've told you a lot, hunting is just a personal journey, in my opinion. Everybody goes about it different, and I respect that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm nobody to sell anybody else if they're right, wrong, the way they're doing it. Do what makes you happy, and just for me, it's the journey of everything, and it's just icing on the cake when it comes together. Because I've tried to get people to go and they're like, man, I'm going to spend all this money, and what if I don't get anything? I say, yeah, there's a good chance you're probably not. I said, but it's not. It's the adventure. It's more than just getting the elk, and that's just a bonus. If you get it, and that's how it is for me anyways. Just really enjoying the process. That's what it's about. If I just wanted to go kill an elk, I could go pay and just go kill an elk.
Yeah.
And that's why I've kind of been stubborn. I've only ever hunted the same unit, and it's hard, and it kicks my butt every year, and I try to get in better physical condition and think this year I'm even in better shape, and it reminds me how powerful it is out there, and I like that challenge.
Yeah.
Because after 5 years and getting one and putting in all that work, I don't care if it's a legal bull. It doesn't matter how many inches it scores. Now, that's kind of the luck part of it, just of what kind of bull you happen to run across. Still getting the bull. It doesn't matter if he's a 200-inch bull or a 400-inch bull. You're still hunting that animal in their environment, and they're still very hard to hunt. And my bull was a mature bull. He was a mature bull.
Yeah.
So he had some wits to him.
Yeah.
And that ultimate, and that's what I like to hunt. I like to hunt. I like the challenge of the hunt. That's what it's about for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So what were you come home from your September? You're pretty wild, late August and September, and you shift back into kind of the whitetail brain.
Yeah, into the whitetail. Now it's kind of how I am. I try to be present in what I'm doing. At the time, I go all in. I'm an all in guy. I'm there. I get amped up, and then I'm like, man, yeah, that was tough. Wish I'd have got one, but now whitetail, and been putting in some work on some public land. Had a good, father-in-law has a couple 100 acres. Had a pretty nice mature 9-point. So I said, man, maybe I can go get him. That was a feeder style hunt, type of stuff, which I don't bash at all. I definitely
That's
do
southern
it.
hunting, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people can relate.
It's fun in its own right, and then the public whitetail thing is just something recently, the past couple of years, I've kind of got into that. And I had a good buck, maybe in the 160s, public land buck. And I'm like, okay, he's a good buck.
Where I'm from, they call that a big one. Bow hunting is a game of confidence. And the last thing that you want to be thinking about when you're at full draw on a giant buck this fall is, I hope this broadhead does its job. I prefer a reliable, fixed blade broadhead that's tough, flies great, and penetrates deeply no matter the arrow setup. And that's why us guys at the Hunter's Advantage shoot Vantage Point archery broadheads. And just a few weeks ago in September, I laid down my first bull elk with the VPA Omegas. In my mind, there's no reason to risk messing with a broadhead that can have a mechanical failure when you can get a super tough, reliable broadhead that's sharp and flies great, and you don't have to worry about the thing failing on you. And if you needed any other reason to choose VPA, they're 100% made in America. To check them out, go to vparchery.com and make sure to use code HA10 at checkout for 10% off your next pack of broadheads. Once again, that's vparchery.com and make sure you use code HA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? Yeah. So I'm like, I was pretty excited about him, and then me and another guy that we're putting in a lot of work on this public together. We went shed hunting and hanging cameras and just kind of working together. If I get them or he gets them, it's, we share intel, and it's about, just working together. That deer ain't mine. Or if anybody else hunting the public, now, I mean, I'm going to be limited on my intel, but if they get it, I'm going to be happy for them.
Sure.
We're all out there trying to do the same thing, so me and my buddy, we started, it was a fluke deal. I had an extra camera, and I just needed to, I was like, I want to at least hang it, you know, and because this public's, 4 hours away from my house. And so just right off the road, there's a pond. I was like, I'll just throw on backside of this pond. And I get a picture of him in velvet, and I'm like, wow. So then I start dissecting the map. Okay, where's this guy living? So we get out there and we start getting cameras. We're trying to figure out what's this thing doing. And far as we know, he made it. So he was a traveler. Because then we kind of started talking to people, and people started saying that they had, this dude was a mile in every direction, and a lot of pictures. I mean, he was a traveler, and so we show up, and I'd been hunting, and I normally would go right around mid-October up there. So my goal was, 1st of October, go try to shoot this buck at my father-in-law's land. And then transition that first little cold front that hit September, go up and start, really hunting him. And I knew the amount of pressure was really not bad. Everybody really hunted the rut up there most. But we show up and it's just vehicles everywhere. And everywhere where we have him on camera, it is loaded in the bar ditch, in the trailhead. I mean, he's known about. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we're like, oh, man. So it's easy to get discouraged. And I'd found a spot. I told Denton, I said, man, I'm going to kill that buck right here. I said, nobody's hunting there. I guarantee you. It was just one of those spots when you look at a map, you would never think. So I went over there, just as I suspected, just some oaks and some grass, and it was a doe bedding area. Them does are in there. I said, he's going to be in here scent checking. He's going to be coming, closer we start getting the end of October, he's going to start making his rounds. So I threw a camera up, and sure enough, he'd come in every couple of days.
Doesn't that feel good to be able to put those pieces together? You're like, you're not slick.
Yeah. No humans with all that pressure around there. Because it was real open country. Real open. It was just a little sliver of timber in there, man. But the way that the land set up, and just the way that it set up with the terrain features, right? And I could tell just nobody had been in there. And I threw that camera up, and I was starting to get him every couple of days. He'd come through, You could tell he's scent checking, coming through. And so we went up there and we hunted, and it's easy to get discouraged with all the pressure and stuff. And I kind of veered off a little bit and was kind of doing some other, because we had tons of cameras going on. I was trying to hunt some other stuff, and he had kind of disappeared on me for about 15 days. 12 or 15 days. I can't remember. I had no pictures of him. He just kind of disappeared on me. So I was like, oh, maybe he got shot. Because I went in there to hunt. I had some pretty good intel. He was coming in. I remember I literally been hunting like 4 days straight, came home. He showed up on a Friday evening, showed up on a Saturday evening around the same time. I told my wife, I was like, what do we got going Sunday? She's like, church and nothing. I was like, well, after church, I said, I'm out of here. 4 hours. I was like, I got to go. Because if he shows up another day, So anyways, I ran up there. He didn't show. It was They had a different hunt going on. I think some little rifle hunt or youth hunt or something that were allowed to hunt there or something. And I heard some shots close by, and then I didn't see them for like that period, almost 2 weeks or something. And so I was a little nervous. And then I just happened to be going to make a trip up there, and I was on my way up, and I was trying to come up with a plan, what I was going to do, where I wanted to go with just all my intel and everything. And I checked, and I got a picture of him right before noon. I was like, all right. I said, I know where I'm going. And he come through, and you could tell he was really amping up. I think this was early November. He was really starting to get frisky. You know what I mean? So I said, I know where I'm going. Wind set up pretty good for it. And so I got in there early. Luckily, I got in there at 2 o'clock, had him right before noon. I got set up at 2 o'clock, decent wind, 10 mile an hour wind. And, sitting there, and it was slow, and then about I think it was about 4:50, I see some does running full speed through the timber. Here they come, and I'm like, and I just see the rack. I mean, I already know it's him. I already know. I'm like, oh my gosh,
no mistaking it.
But the thing is, what's tough is there's 2 does he's chasing, and they're running full speed. It's hard. It ain't like he's coming in, moseying in, feeding, taking his time. They're full speed chasing, running. They weren't ready. He was, and so he's running them down. And so I didn't even think they were going to come by me. And they run, and they U-turn, and they come right through my lane. You know what I mean? And so he U-turn, he's coming, and I go to stop him with, pretty loud. And he's running quick. And I because I draw back, and I just I sounded like an idiot. I just lost it, just screaming at this thing to stop. And man, he checks up, right before he gets to this tree, he checks up and he stops 15 yards, man. And it's easy to say what you would do until you're in that moment doing it. Yeah. I'm drawn back. I dropped down on him. But it was like as soon as I saw Brown, I just let her rip. You know what I mean? And I've never shot a buck of that caliber. You know what I mean? I've worked hard for my deer. I don't have any, I guess, scoring-wise trophy deer. They're all trophy. I've always worked hard for all of my bucks that I've hunted. They've all been tough hunts to get them. But, I don't have, 150-inch bucks on my wall. You know what I mean? And so maybe it was a little bit of that, call it what you will, buck fever or whatever. But
already picking out your form as he's sitting there. You're like, man, he looked good.
It was, oh, man, dude. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this, And I let it rip, and as soon as it hits, man, I knew. I was like, not good.
Yeah,
not good. Way too high. Even as alert as he was, head up, looking like that, it's amazing how much those bucks drop. He's still. If he would have stayed still, like a target that I can hit it, 60 yards all day long, perfect. Oh yeah. Oh no, it was perfect until he dropped. You know what I mean? And they know, man. It's just that they know what to do. And he dropped, and where I hit, and he takes off, and that stomach just drops. Like, oh my gosh, So I wait. I kind of go down, kind of look a little bit, and I was like, you know what? It was getting dark. I was come back in the morning. Came back in the morning. I had some blood, so I thought, okay. Found my arrow at 300 yards, covered in blood. You saw the picture.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, gosh, man, this thing covered in blood. And I had good blood all the way
blood trail didn't look bad either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, so then I'm like, did I? I shot him with a, 2-inch mechanical. And so I was like, maybe I caught something, but 300 yards. I'm like, gosh, I'm pretty confident where I hit him. You know what I mean? I know it happens fast and stuff like that. And so then I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like with this blood, and then maybe I caught something. So I'm like, okay, I got to get a dog, So buddy I know is a tracker. He linked me up with a guy, top-notch dude. You know what I mean? It's $400 just from him come out. I was like,
he is top-notch. Yeah.
I was like, for this animal, I was like, I will pay it because, I got to do it. I got to have closure. We get on the track, obviously, is on public. We waited, that next day, all day, and we're going to go in at night, so we didn't mess anybody up. And so it was 26 hours later, roughly, we got on the track. And unfortunately, I've done tracked enough deer, and I'll rewind here in a minute for the other public land buck that I shot. But, so anyways, we found a speck of blood a mile away. You know what I mean? And we'd find blood here and there. We just watch the GPS where the dog went, and every once in a while we see a speck of blood. But we knew, if we would have got him, he would have been sick, or he would have been dead, or we would have got him. You know what I mean? And so we determined, at least I felt better. The $400, nothing. It gave me peace of mind instead of wondering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gave me that peace of mind. I put in, the effort for it, everything like that. And we determined, he said that deer's good. I did hit him. And what I came up with was that mechanical, obviously stopped a lot of that momentum on impact. And I hit him high, perfectly behind the shoulder, but high. And if you look, there's a decent little void right there above the spine, and that's exactly where I hit him. And what happened was that arrow just hung on right there and rode with him. And I think that was helping that blood trail, because after I found that arrow, the blood trail went away. And I think that was helping. And I think what happened was it was just kind of sitting in there, just getting that blood coated on there. And the illusion of it made it seem like it was more than what it was. You know what I mean? And, but like I said, and then luckily Denton, he's one day texted me, so I got some good news. Your buck's alive, or the buck's alive. Wasn't my buck, but the buck, and he was alive. And he actually had a different wound on him, because he's like, oh, you hit him like way back by the hindquarter. I was like, no. I know for a fact. Now I sent him to my buddy, and he actually circled it and sent it back to me. He said, there's your shot right there. I was like, oh, and then once he brought it, I was like, you could see it. So I don't know if he got caught in the fins, or who knows what could happen. He had a bigger gash on his back end, and he was a little run down, and then it didn't still continue to have pictures of him up till, pretty recently. So,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So who knows, hopefully, he makes it, and, he's even 180 next year. and then we get a chance to hunt them again, you know. And that
man can hope.
And that's the game of bow hunting, you know. No, we never want those bad shots, you know, to happen, but things happen fast, man. I mean, it's tough, you know. Everybody got a plan, right? So you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but just the fact that I got an arrow in them and was able to even take a shot at them, and I played the chess game, and I didn't execute, you know. I didn't. Could have been a dead deer.
Yeah.
If I would have shot them better. That right there, that's hard, you know, just getting to that point. So I was definitely proud of that, you know, to get to that point. Still sick thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a heartbreaker, but just knowing that he's alive and doing my part on there. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah. We chased a buck on public one year. For 4 years we named him Kickstand, and he was like pretty nice, probably 130s, and then he was like 150s one year, and we're like, oh my god, we got to keep tabs on this one. We found him the next year, and he went way down. I mean, from big baseball bats to, you know, but same shape, same frame, just gray in the face. We got a Facebook message one day, and he was like, hey, buddy of mine watches your YouTube channel and saw this trail cam picture on Facebook. I wanted to show you this deer. I shot him last year, and he sent it to me. He scored like 118. He all the way from 150. He went all the way down to 118, but I was like, dude, that's awesome. I sent him like 4 years of trail cam pace. He's like, this is awesome. And it was cool to be able to connect the dots.
Do you think that was an age going downhill age-wise?
I think that deer was at least 7.5. He might have been 8.5. So, yeah, he was a toad.
So, yeah, I'm just hoping this guy keeps going up, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just a big, you know, 21-inch wide, you know, heavy base like this, that shed right there, just super heavy, fork G2s, fork on the G3, mainframe 9, but just super heavy, wide, you know, just a great buck, you know. He's just a good mature buck, you know, that I like to add. And but yeah, you know, and then I end up shooting that other 10 on some other public, you know, a draw hunt. That same thing, you know, maybe you know, looking back now, because this all ran through the biologist and all that, and, you know, he kind of gave me a little talking to, and, you know, and he's 3-year-old buck like that. And once again, it's tough in the moment with bow hunting, especially no feed, no nothing. This is all just transition movement. Like, your shot opportunities a lot of time are, you know, you're trying to age, score, you know, try to get a rough idea of this animal very, very quickly and execute and make it all come together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, in this public land, you know, you got to shoot 2 does before you can shoot a buck, and, you know, and that was hard. That was a feat in its own right. People thought, oh, it's 2 does. Yeah, okay. I mean, that was a challenge. I did, you know, I shot two mature does. You know, I got my does out of the way and everything, and, you know, when I saw this buck, he looked good and he had good time length, and I was a little off on his mains. You know, I thought his mains were a little better. I calculated, you know, I quick glance, I was like, I think he might be a 4-year-old 130 class buck.
Yeah.
You know, buck. And good time length, everything. I knew he had a little kicker drop time on him and stuff like that. And I was just, you know, he's right under 125, you know, and I was just a little off on that beam length, you know, and that spread. But, and once again, you know, yeah, looking back now, just like I told the biologist, if I could, you know, replay it all back and go back, I probably would have passed that deer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get better. But it's tough to get better without just doing it and making a few mistakes along the way. It's hard. It's easy to look at Facebook and a picture and comment and say age and score and all this stuff when you have all the time in the world to do it. When you have a limited shot window and it happens so fast, it's just, you know, no trail cam picture. I literally went into the spot, first time hunting it, no camera, nothing, you know, and I did a little bit of grunting and rattling that morning. I think he was coming up to kind of investigate that out of this little bottom, just the way he was acting. And just how it all just came together just super fast. But I'm super proud of him. You know, I still went in there, public land, hunted hard, and got him shot, and, you know, and So at the end of the day, I mean, I'm still happy for him. He still eats good, and you know, and it was a learning experience. Trust me. I mean, the ultimate goal is to become better, shoot mature deer, and once again, the score thing doesn't matter. It's ultimately, it always comes down to the maturity thing. We're trying to shoot these more mature deer, and of course, we want a good scoring deer. I mean, who don't? You know, we all do, but I don't let that lose my focus of what I'm doing. You know, I don't let that take, everything.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you talked a couple times about it being a personal journey, and that's what I've kind of realized too, just with social media and making content and everything. Is like, at the end of the day, the only people that care about what you shoot is like you and maybe a couple buddies.
Right.
You shoot a 200, people are going to go, nice, man. You might get a couple hundred comments on Facebook, and you're going to go back the next week, and nobody's going to give a damn.
Yeah, because
nobody cares.
So there's 200s popping up on Facebook nowadays. It's crazy. Yeah, and you hear other people talk about it. It's just like we've kind of grown numb to it, But you don't know the stories behind them deer. You know what I mean? That's the thing. You can look at a picture of a deer and appreciate the deer. You don't know the story behind that deer. The story, I'm more interested in the story behind it.
Yeah.
Is it got a good story? Was it a good challenge? Did you put in the work? Did you really have to get out of your comfort zone? Really have to think, make adjustments, push? You know what I mean? A lot of hours in a tree, making adjustments. And that story is what I like. When people tell me hunting stories, I want them to have a good story. Not, I just went out there, I was sitting there for 5 minutes, he walked out, the feeder went off, I shot him. And nothing against that. Don't get me wrong. Nothing against that. And then that's kind of a wrap. Work was busy, things like that. I wanted to try to get some more hunts in. Unfortunately, I was very thankful for the time that the wife did get, put up with me with hunting this year and everything like that. And I really needed to give my company some attention and stuff like that. And I was happy. I shot me some does, and I got that one buck and got meat in the freezer, and my Sitka, I got, him processed and all that meat. So we're stacked up pretty good there. And so I kind of shift focused. And then December, really try to spend a little bit more family time, holidays, everything going on with that, and just being more present here. And then, because I knew come January, now I'm shifting gears again. And now it's predator hunting time, So it's like, whitetail is great, and then I'm all in with the predator hunting and hog hunting, So we run some predator competitions and stuff. Me and my buddy Bradley have been pushing hard. We did one this past weekend, 3 ounces out of third place and 2 pounds 1 ounce out of first place. Out of some pretty good money.
Is it just 3 coyotes or what?
This one was a stringer style hunt: coyote, raccoon, bobcat, and a fox, right? And then that total weight of those.
Did you get one of each?
One of each. So
you guys killed one of each?
We got one of each, right?
Really?
And we had great animals, man. I mean, right off the bat, we went in, and our daytime set, we went in there and shot a 47-pound coyote, man.
That's a beast.
Just a stud coyote, and we're like, oh my God, we're starting it off like this, just an old male. I mean, his elbows were wore down. I mean, just an old big male. So we're just like, all right, right off the bat. And so then we shift over, like, okay, start thinking about fox places, what we're going to do for our fox. So we went in, hit a couple different spots, did some sets, and said, hey, man, remember this old spot over here we used to hunt? We always had pretty good fox. Yeah, let me call this guy. So we called him up. His sister, or him and his brother and sister owned some property, and his brother, oh, man, my brother sold that property. Well, it was the brother, sister, and brother. Well, said, what about the sister? She said, yeah, young hunt. Well, it's a long sliver, and she has a long driveway, and it's kind of narrow, but we, it was a tight quarters, and we went in there and ended up calling in a double. We ended up getting one of them, and it was a good fox for us. Normally we average like 7.5 pound foxes, and it was a 9 pound fox, so okay, that's good. So we're feeling good, man. And then we went in, and we ended up shooting some raccoons, and
how are you shooting raccoons?
Calling them in, man.
Really?
Oh, them big boars.
What do you call a raccoon?
Just a coon fight.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Them big boars, boy, they're aggressive. They're territorial. They're fun.
They just come in and throw hands?
They're mean, dude. They are mean. They're mean. I shot a 26-pounder one time.
Wow.
That thing was unbelievably mean. He stood up and literally bowed up and was walking on his back legs.
Did he just roll in? Was he just shaped like a circle?
Dude, it was hilarious. We ended up winning a side pot off of him, but Yeah, that was hilarious throughout the night, overall 6, but we ended up going in and then we knew our cat was going to be our issue. We got to put in some more work, some more scouting and stuff. We know we got some cats, but I told Brad, I said, we got to get some more cameras out. We need to really put in some more work because those coyotes will come from a long ways, they'll travel so far to come in, but those cats where we hunt anyways, it tends to be like smaller pockets, and going in and shooting in the dark and just, going in and just blind calling. If you ain't got cats pegged down, it's tough, man. You can waste a lot of time. So we knew that was going to be a challenge, but we ended up going into a spot that we had killed a cat before. And we were literally scanning. And because we were hunting with thermals at night, it got dark, and I literally was scanning, and down low, I kind of caught a glimpse of something, and I dropped down. I told Brad, I said, man, there's a cat right there. He said, no, it's not a cat, that's a rabbit, or whatever it was. He's already been watching. I said, no, right here, like right under us. And it worked out perfect. He checked up. I got a good shot on him, dropped him there. I knew he wasn't the best, the biggest cat, but we got our stringer. You know what I mean? So we're like, and we had good animals. And he was right under 15-pound cat. And so we're like, okay, so the rest of the night, and this was 12:30 midnight, right? And we had to be at weigh-in at noon. So we still had a good amount of time to hunt, but it was it was last weekend, those winds picked up. It was 20-mile-an-hour winds, and so the winds were tough. And so we said, okay, well, we're going to keep trying to shoot coons. So, if hopefully we can get a 22, 23-pound coon, we can gain some weight there. Foxes, you're not going to gain anything, so no reason to shoot any foxes. We'll let those go. We don't need to shoot no coyotes. We ain't going to beat a 47-pound dog. We don't need to shoot no coyotes. We'll just let those go, save our dogs. And so the coons and the cat. So after that, we end up going around, calling in a couple more coons, and shot one right under 20 pounds. A pretty good coon. So we're like, okay, we're happy with him. And then we hunted, man, and we hunted the rest of the night. We hunted hard, and we shot a couple of smaller coons and stuff, but we just could not find another cat. And we knew we had good weight. We knew we were going to be close, and 101 teams, and we went in to weigh in, and unfortunately we got fourth place, and we were just right there. Yeah, 3 ounces out of third, and 2 pounds 1 ounce would have got us first, So there's some great guys that we're hunting against, that they're very good, very skilled, and I told Bradley, I said, we're just as good, man. We are. If we would have had camera, it had more cats pegged down in more areas exactly, so we're not wasting our set times, and we're in there in known areas for cats, we probably would have had a little bit better chance. So we just make those adjustments, you know what I mean? We're going to get out there and get some more cameras set and try to get some more cats located. And just like anything, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work. So just kind of in that, we'll do that till March, and we'll be in and out, maybe do some, some farmers, once they get ready to plant, they'll call us and be like, hey, we're planting, can y'all go check the fields? Because as soon as they put that corn in the ground, those pigs come right in and pull it out. So we'll go help them reduce some numbers, and then, and then kind of dies down a little bit for me. We'll go do a couple of, after turkey season, my cousin runs a bunch of guided hunt stuff. So after that, he'll let us come in and hunt all of his leased property for pigs. And we usually do pretty good up there. We'll go make a trip and do that. And then, so pretty slow in summer. That's kind of my grind time. Spring, summer with work, family. We'll do some family vacations, all that good stuff, and spend that time. And then August will be here again, and then here we go, and then that's where we're at now. So what we're planning. So
yeah, well, I originally told my wife, I said, the bulk of my hunting is October and the first 15 days of November. She's like, you found a way to be August to January. She's like, it's half the year now, and I'm like, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah,
and I was like, and I can find something in the spring too if I keep looking.
I'm August to March. Yeah. But at least with the predator hunting stuff, it's just on the weekend and mainly at night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm going for a week during the week and like away from the kids and family and stuff hunting. So it's a little bit better.
Yeah.
But once again, I'm just the type of person that I'm very present where I'm at. You know what I mean? So when I'm at home with the family, I'm at home. That goes for work. I leave work in the truck. We try to have those boundaries, and I love my family and stuff, but even when I'm hunting, like I touch base once a day for the most part, but then I'm really just dialed in. I'm really there. Yeah. So I just really give them my full attention when I'm at home. We spend a lot of time together, do a lot of stuff, So
be where your feet are.
Yeah. And every day during the week, I come home from work, I'm home. Every day of the week, I come home, I'm at home, and then like I said, spring, summer, we make it a priority. Me and my wife will do our own trip together, and then we'll make sure we do a couple of family vacations with the kids.
Yeah. That's fun. Dude, it's fun.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's just balancing it all,
Yeah.
and making it all work, and running a business and a family and your hobbies, and trying to make sure you just, don't upset anybody, and give everybody the attention they deserve and everything like that. Be appreciative for all of it, and just busy and making it all work, man. But it's great. Really enjoy it. And so now I've got you dragged into to going to Alaska. Yeah, because I was just like, I think I told you I was at Bass Pro and kind of looked at a piece of a gear equipment, that Yeti waterproof bag, man, those duffel bags. My buddy had them when we went up there.
Yeah.
And it sat for a week in the rain and never a drop of water. And I was like, I got to get me one of these. And when I was up there looking at it, and then it just sparked it. I was like, why don't you get a group together and go back and do that hunt? That was a fun, good hunt. And since you went and done it, the logistic-wise of it, I know the logistics of it and everything. And so I reached out to you and a couple other guys, and now we're getting the ball rolling.
Dude, yeah, I want to do that hunt really bad. It's like this scroll that it like winds in front of you. You pick it up and you're like, oh, I want to do this and this. And then the more you hold it up, the more it rolls out, and you see that what you can do. It just opens up this whole world. And it's like, but like you said, everything in balance, right? Because I've often think like, oh man, I wish I could hunt 200 days a year. Then I'm like, no, it's what makes it so sweet is just the difference in experience and being able to be with my wife and knowing when I go, she got my back and she's got everything figured out. And it's just, dude, it's just so fun. I want to do more of it, but I know that's what makes it so special. It's like you're sitting there with the anticipation, right? That's fun too. Yeah.
So, but, and I've got it, because I got some bucket list stuff that you've done some antelope hunting, and that's another kind of thing for me. And, is, doing the antelope stuff and just kind of sharing that and feeding off of you some. And, I've been collecting points in Wyoming and stuff. I got a few points up there, and, just starting to, I think the biggest thing is for us, we run our life on a calendar. You know what I mean? And my wife's cool, man. If we get it on the calendar and things like that, for the most part, it's locked in. We have a great relationship. She does her thing, her trips and stuff. I do my hunting trips. We do our stuff together. Then we do our stuff with the kids and the family. And our biggest thing is I can do a lot of stuff as long as I get it on the calendar, plan for it, and have it set. Because we just have a, app on the phone with everything, all our schedule and everything. And and if it means something to you, you're going to have to, you got to figure it out. Sometimes you got to get, we're kind of dealing with, the logistics of this Kodiak hunt and trying to make it work with everybody's schedule and all that. You got 4 guys, 4 different lives going on. And every one of y'all's wives has birthdays almost on the same exact day, which is absolutely wild.
Yeah, that helps.
And just trying to work out the details and all that stuff and figuring it out and just putting in the effort and making it work, So,
yeah.
That's the ultimate goal.
So what's your kind of, I know you do a little bit of stuff on the content side too. You have your page. What's your kind of goal with that? Is it just documenting your, kind of the next 30 years chasing these unattainable, extremely financially hard goals?
Yeah, my wife used to be a little upset because she's all about, the family and posting everything on the social media and everything. I said, look, you use your social media for that.
Yeah.
I said, social media for me is mainly like a place to log all of my hunting stuff and just to kind of have it and share it with anybody who cares. I mean, I don't have many, followers. I'm not like huge in it. I created, I came up with a name back in the pandemic with 2020. I kind of got laid off. I bought a bass boat and was fishing a lot, and kind of came up with a little Instagram name, Social Distancing Outdoors, just because everything that was going on. I thought it was funny.
Timely.
And I was like, outdoors and social distancing, because you are kind of social distancing when you're out hunting and doing that stuff. So, and, it's a fun thing for me. Anybody, like, I don't know nothing. That's all I know is I know nothing, so if I do have a little bit of experience, anything I can share is just my experience. And if it helps you, awesome. If it don't, then whatever, So I just love talking hunting. you know, this right here, and just talking with people and just sharing stories and talking about hunting. So mainly the social media right now is just kind of some videos and pictures and just kind of the adventures and I would like to start doing some more podcast. You know, mainly my main goal, and I've told you this before, like I've got a good career. You know, it's nothing financial for me. For me, it's simply I hang out with hunters.
Yeah.
If you don't hunt and fish, we probably are not going to be friends. Nothing against you.
Yeah.
You know, I love you, but, you know, I just hang out with hunters, man. We have that in common. We have this passion, you know, and just sharing stories and talking all different aspects of hunting. I'm not just a whitetail bow hunter only. You know what I mean? I do a little bit of it all and that was my goal with it. My buddy Bradley that I predator hunt with, me and him to come and just talk about some of our hunts that we've had. Me and Eric, you know, talking about our trips in Colorado together and stuff that he's learned and I've learned and our relationship that we've grown and just talking about hunting and stuff, you know. So, and I know that, you know, it's a little intimidating getting into it. I don't know where to really start. You know, my wife kind of handles the computer and that type of stuff. And I handle, you know, just working and getting jobs done. But so just learning the cameras and the microphones and the setup and just kind of getting me a little routine set up and kind of, you know, doing that. And then anybody who, you know, wants to talk and just BS about whatever and, you know, nothing, just kind of whatever type of deal, semi-topic stuff. Maybe we might focus on, you know, some certain gear that we've ran and how it worked out for us. Not technically a gear review, but maybe, partial gear review, just kind of talk about that side of things. And, you know, that connection that we've made through being partners and hunting together in the backcountry and kind of that relationship and bond that you build and, you know, the struggles and stuff that sometimes you clash with each other and just being able to realize, you know, like, hey, no animal's worth our friendship. You know what I mean? And all this. And so all kinds of different random stuff to talk about. So that is kind of a goal for 25 to kind of start dabbling in that a little bit more. I shot a little video the other day, a little update video of the predator hunt that I did and just showing appreciation for those guys that are putting on these hunts. And, you know, because they're not making any money off of it. They're just, you know, they're spending their time and energy so we can do it. And so, yeah, you know, that's what I'm in it for. You know, for me personally, it's more about just being able to talk hunting every once in a while. And if we can squeeze out here one evening every couple of weeks or something and sit here and talk and, you know, do that'd be cool. Kind of in that off-season time to fill up that stuff because, you know, we're kind of running around a little bit lost, shooting the bow when we can and tinkering. And that's when we're back to tinkering and, you know, out here just cleaning gear and messing with gear and stuff because it's just a lifestyle, man. You know, it's hard. You know, when you got the bug, you got the bug. You know.
Yeah, I definitely totally understand what you're saying. Man, I admire what you do. I appreciate what you do, and it's cool to watch it from afar and up close. Well, if people want to keep connected with you and just keep like kind of watching your story and where you go from here, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, you know, mainly, you know, Instagram, Social Distancing Outdoors, you know, on Facebook, I'm just Landon Huey, Huey. And, but yeah, you know, thanks for having me, man. And like our relationship has been great. You know, it was just kind of a weird thing. You just happen to wear a processor hat, Hunter's Creek processing hat, and it's right down the road from the house. And I reached out, you know, and then we just kind of, you know, linked up. I just felt like we had a lot in common and stuff like that. And, just, you know, and we've developed pretty good relationship and stuff like that. So definitely thankful for that. Just common goals, outlook on life, stuff like that. So it's good to, you know, run across people that share the same vision in life that you do. And so hopefully we'll get back out and on that public that we went shed hunting on this spring and maybe get out there and do a little bit more. And so yeah, man, no, I really appreciate it. Yeah, just Social Distancing Outdoors on Instagram. I post sporadically. But you know, I got some pretty decent stuff on there, you know. I think it's pretty cool, you know. But maybe somebody else will find it interesting, but really it's just for me, you know what I mean? Like I don't really care if I have one follower or 100,000, you know, whatever, you know. So
that's cool.
Just like that's why I follow other people, you know. I follow interesting people and have something cool to say or cool experiences and stories because I'll be honest with you, some of the coolest stuff I've ran across is people that have no following. None. And they're just out there just doing it to it.
Yeah.
You know, and they got some cool stuff going on. So
yeah,
appreciate that.
Maybe next time we do the podcast, it'll be in some wild place. Hopefully.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's gonna be. Yeah.
Well, we'll catch you guys next time. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, make sure to leave us a rating and review. Or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.